Dennis Berlin Podcast. Hit the like button, subscribe. For the intelligent, black men is relevant. Why ask questions when you know the answer? So we bypass outlast channels, no gossip. We about that life. Tune in, subscribe, hop in the broadcast, stay current. Dennis Berlin Podcast, vibe with it. On the couch, leaving your house so you can ride with it. Voice of black excellence with no frontin'. In the space we speak how we feel. The blizzard's coming. What's up? Welcome to the broadcast, man. Shout out to everybody who's in here, man. Hit the number 1 button if you can hear me clearly. We got a hot one for you tonight, this morning, this afternoon. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you hit the number 1 button so I can know you're here. Let me know where you're checking in from. My name is Dennis Sperling, Uncle D, the Blizzard King. For you guys who don't know, I'm a trial lawyer. Not only am I a trial lawyer, but I'm also a Hall of Fame lawyer, having been accepted and have accepted the offer of being inducted into the Southern University Law Center Hall of Fame, my alma mater. On top of that, I am a YouTube broadcaster, podcaster, and my most important title, father, or super dad, but you all can call me Uncle D. What's up, man? Shout out to everybody who's checking in. So, as you guys know, I have taken it upon myself to begin to investigate into reparations. And in doing my investigation into reparations, it's caused for me to have to read lots of different books because I'm not approaching this as a historian. I'm approaching it from the position of a litigator. I'm approaching it from the position of how do I, instead of asking for what we know we deserve, using the legal system to demand and, if necessary, take via lawsuit judgments what we as foundational Black Americans deserve. Now, what I mean by foundational Black Americans, it's a term made popular by famous YouTuber Tariq Nasheed, and also not just a YouTuber, author, director, but he does have a YouTube post. Shout out to him. Foundational Black American is simply extending onto Black American the term foundational, which designates that we have a separate lineage that is different from our Caribbean counterparts. It is different from the individuals who come to the United States who are truly of African descent and they come to America. Different lineage, different history. And so the term foundational Black American is very similar to the term that we have been using since the 80s, African American or Black American, and then we add foundational. So that simple qualifier can be used to tell a whole story, and that's why I like it. out of the many options out there, I like that one. And I think it's the most effective from the perspective of a legal standpoint, especially as related to reparations. Now, in doing my research, I've read lots of books, I've reviewed many documentaries. And one of my favorite books that I've recently been able to read is this one, and it is entitled Barracoon. And for those of you guys who speak Spanish, Barracoon uh, basically stands for barracks. I have a cover here ready for you to review. The cover of this book entitled Barracoon is here, and it is the story of the last black cargo. Originally, the story of Cujo Lewis was taken by Zora Neale Hurston, and she basically was able to record this man's history. He was brought here to the United States against his will in 1860. And as I read the foreword to this document, I'll read a little bit to you. And some of you may say, well, there was a slave ship brought here in 1860. Yes, there was. And that man, Mr. Cujo Lewis, he lived all the way up through the 1930s. And as I read this forward, I find some things to be very interesting. But let's read it together. Those who love us never leave us alone with our grief. At the moment they show us our wound, they reveal they have the medicine. Barracoon, the story of the last black cargo, is a perfect example of this. I'm not sure there was ever a harder read than this. For those of us duty bound to carry the ancestors to work for them as we engage in daily life in different parts of the world where they were brought in chains and were they as slaves to cruel or curious or indifferent white persons with few exceptions existed in a precarious suspension disconnected from their real life, and where we also had to struggle to protect our humanity to experience joy of life in spite of everything. Now, some of you all may say, well, okay, what does that mean, bro? Well, I want you to read this, the second page, and this is where I'm going. Because I want you all to understand why Killmonger was right. And number two, why Africa must pay reparations to Black America. And more importantly, why our historians, why our leaders are constantly telling Black Americans that our African brothers and sisters didn't know that they were selling us into slavery, which is a notion that I challenge. Instead, I would suggest that this was a contrivance to try to keep the peace, so to speak, to try to make sure that the bridges that we were attempted that our African counterparts wouldn't be offended by what they knew to be their own history. Evil we have witnessed or which we have been subjected. Reading Barracoon, one understands immediately the problem. And I want you all to pay close attention to this. The problem many Black people years ago, especially Black intellectuals and political leaders, had with it. It resolutely records the atrocities atrocities African peoples inflicted on each other long before shackled Africans traumatized, ill, disoriented, starved, arrived on the ships as Black cargo in the hellish West. who could face this vision of the violently cruel behavior of the brethren and the sisterin who first captured our ancestors? Who would want to know via blow by blow account how African chiefs deliberately set out to capture Africans from neighboring tribes to provoke wars of conquest in order to capture for the slave trade people, men, women, children who belong to Africa, and to do this in so hideous a fashion that reading about it 200 years later brings waves of horror and distress. This is, make no mistake, a harrowing read. So, what I want you to understand is that this book was originally set to be printed in 1927. And at that time, you had your Marcus Garvey, you had the Back to Africa movement, you had Black people coming into the point where we were looking at Africa as a viable place for Blacks to go. We were trying to create a relationship with our African brothers. And so to introduce into the public sphere the truth, and that is that Black Africans played an integral part in our capture, and that they committed horrendous acts, unnecessarily horrendous acts. The intellectuals at the time said, no, we don't want to introduce this to the public at large. Now, when they say intellectuals, who are they talking about? They're talking about people like Carter G. Woodson. Somebody type Dr. Carter G. Woodson in the chat room. Carter G. Woodson of the Journal of Negro History basically paid this woman, Miss Hurst, to go to Alabama and interview Cujo, or Hurston, I should say. And this is a picture of Cujo, Cudjo Lewis. He paid him, but upon hearing about the story, he decided that it wasn't a good idea to allow it to enter into the public discussion as far as Black people. Listen, prior to December 1927 meeting, Hurston had interviewed Kosola once before. As she states in her introduction in Barracoon, I had met Mr. Cudjo Lewis for the first time in July 1927. She spent about 3 months down there with Cudjo in Alabama. She herself was originally from Alabama. I was sent by Dr. Franz Boas to get a firsthand report of the raid that had brought him to America in bondage for Dr. Carter G. Woodson of the Journal of Negro History. Now, keep in mind that by 1860, slavery had been outlawed, not just in the United States, but the international slave trade had been outlawed. So they shouldn't have been doing it. So what was done, the theft of these people, these 115, 116 so out Africans from the west coast of Africa, was purely an illegal act. From February to August of 1927, Hurston conducted a field work in Florida and Alabama under the direction of Franz Boas, her mentor, the renowned father of American anthropology. Boas had early on approached Woodson, the father of Black history. So keep in mind, Carter G. Woodson is considered the father of Black history, and he refused to allow this very important piece of Black history to be entered in. Imagine if we have known for the past 100 years that Africans played a crucial and critical part in our enslavement. They weren't passive bystanders. They actively played a part, the leadership. So listen, in accordance with their arrangement, Hurston was to collect Black folks' materials for Boas and scout around for undiscovered Black folks artists, in addition to gathering of historical data for Woodson. She was also to collect Kosala's story. Woodson supported Hurston's field research with $1,400 fellowship. Half of the funds came from the Association of Study of Negro Life and History, an organization founded by directed by Woodson. Now, here's what Woodson did when he realized, and I'm gonna put this back up. I thought I was reading it and allowing you all to see this. Woodson, upon finding out what was going on, and I'm talking about Carter G. Woodson, upon finding out the story of Cudjoe and the role that Africans played in it, guess what he did? He cut off the funds. You see, he cut off the funds. So he undermined her ability to finish the work. He basically cut off the funds because it was important not to allow this in. Now, keep in mind, I'm one of those Black Americans who can trace my heritage right back to slavery in Mississippi. Matter of fact, here is the documentation of my ancestors being sold into slavery. This is from 1850. So this is around about the same time period. So when I tell you this is personal to me, it is. This is a receipt for the sale of my ancestors. Dated November 18th, 1857, received of James Prescrow $5,500 being in full for the purchase of 8 Negroes, to wit Sam, his wife, Almira, and their 6 children, Bet Alexander, Mary, Martha, Frank, Washington. All of the slaves are warranted sound and healthy in both body and mind, in the right title, free from claim whatever, and the slaves for life as witnesses. This person right here, Frank, is my great-grandfather. Frank James King is my great-grandfather. This is a bill of sale out of Casilla, Mississippi. So when I tell you that this is personal to me, when I tell you that my grandmother picked cotton, when I tell you that my mother picked cotton, it is easy for you to understand why I would say, hey, wow, we wouldn't even be here but for this situation, but for Africans playing a part in this situation. So what do we do from here? Well, some of you are saying, well, oh no, those African kings didn't know what they were doing. I challenge you on that. I challenge you on that. And I challenge you as follows. Some say these African kings didn't know what they do, but they had their reasons. And we're going to talk a little bit about the nature and the personality of these individuals. The Barracoon, and I'm reading from the book by Zora Neale Hurst. Let's read into this a little bit. The ceremonies over Foster had little trouble in procuring cargo. And this is Foster. This is the captain who, and we're going to dig into this. Is just the preliminary. The Barracoons at Wida were overflowing. It had long been a part of the traders' policy to instigate the tribes against each other so that plenty of prisoners would be taken, and in this manner keep the market stocked. News of trade was often published in papers. An excerpt from the Mobile Register of November 9th, 1858, from the west coast of Africa. We have advice dated September 21st that the quarreling of the tribes of Sierra Leone River rendered the aspect of things very unsatisfactory. Inciting was no longer necessary in Dahomey. What did they say? You didn't need to incite them to keep them fighting. The king of Dahomey had long ago concentrated all his resources on the providing of slaves for foreign market. There was a brisk trade in slaves at from $50 to $60 a piece at Wida. Immense numbers of Negroes were collected along the coast for export. King Gizzo, write that name down. King Gizzo maintained a standing army of about 12,000 And of these, 5,000 are Amazons. These are those, somebody type woman king in the chat room. This is what they were talking about. 5,000 women soldiers. The Dahomean year was divided into two parts: the wars and the festivals. So that's all they did, was go to war, capture other Africans, and have a festival. In the months of November or December, the king commences his annual wars. And these wars were kept up until January or February. These were never carried on mere conquest. These were never carried on for mere conquest. Listen, they were all forced upon the Dahomeans from less powerful nations. In other words, they went on people who couldn't fight back. The king boasted that he never attacked the people unless they had not only insulted the Dahomey, but his own. Here's what you got to understand. The insults were, the king of Dahomey would say, give me half of your crop this year. And if you don't, that's considered an insult, including your cows. These are the actually words of Cujo right here. They say, the king Dahomey? Yeah, I can say, I have heard of him. Mind you, Cujo was kidnapped and brought to the United States, or brought to America, when he was 19 years old. So he was basically a grown man. The men from Dahomey say, then you know all they strong names he governed. He got one name, Tenjay, the rock, the fingernail that cannot scratch it, the lion's lion, an animal bone, cut his teeth, evil done entered into the bush. These are all the names they have for this man. This king send you and say he wished to be kind. Therefore, you must send him half your crops. In other words, hey, I'm going to be nice to y'all. I'm not going to come raid you, but you got to send me half your crops. And if you don't send him half your crops, which you use to support your people, guess what? He makes war on you. So this is what they mean when they say he provoked the wars because of insult. That's like me saying, unless you turn over the keys to your car in your house, I'm gonna come make war with you. That's not something you can do. You put me in an impossible position. And then guess what? He maintained an army and he wouldn't attack them. Our king Akio say, ask your king, did he ever hear the strong name Aikion? They call me mouth of the leopard. In other words, the other king is talking back to him. That he take hold. He never let go. Tell him the crops ain't mine. They belong to the people. In other words, this other king is saying, do you know who I am? They call me the mouth of the leopard. These are not my crops to take. These are my people's crop. You see? And tell them the crops ain't mine. They belong to my people. I can send and take the people crops to send the king of Dahomey. In other words, I can't do it. And he got plenty of land. Let him stop making slave hunt on other people and make his own crops. In other words, tell the king of Dahomey, stop hunting down other people. So they knew what he was doing. These were Africans. The king, and specifically, we talking about the king of Dahomey, Genzo. These are Africans taking other Africans as slaves so they could sell to white men. Had this not happened, there would be no slavery. There would be no transatlantic slave trade. So what happened? What was the response? When he said, hey, yeah, tell him to stop doing slave hunts, and he has plenty of land, go make his own crops. And what did the king of Dahomey say in response? The king of Dahomey don't like that message. In other words, he didn't like the message. And Akon's so strong, he afraid come make war. So he wait. The king of Dahomey, he got very rich catching slaves. Let me say that again. This is from an eyewitness. The king of Dahomey, he got very rich catching slaves. He kept his army all the time making raids and grabbing people to sell, so people of Dahomey don't have no time to raise gardens and making food. All the people in Dahomey did was just catch people and sell them to white folks on the coast. Now, for those of you all who think that this man actually didn't know what he was doing and they loved Africans and they loved their fellow slaves and they treated them fairly, I want you to understand the caliber of person that you're dealing with. Now, this is another excerpt from another book. This is another book. Okay, this is another one by Zora Neale Hurston. It's called Cujo's Own Story of the Last African Slaver. This is from this particular book, and I'm going to blow this up just so you can know the caliber of these beneficent kings. Somebody type king, African kings in the chat room. Don't all of us, didn't we? These are the African kings we wanted to be, right? So now after they caught, this is after Cujo was caught, on the march to the coast, they were forced to behold the dangling heads of their relatives and friends. When they grew offensive, the Dahomians stopped the march that they might smoke the heads. As they passed near one of the homies' villages at a curve in the big road, they caught sight of fresh heads raised on poles above the huts. Now, can you imagine you done marched hundreds of miles to the coast from your inland village and you see the heads of your friends and family being hung up? This is the person, these are the beneficent kings, the benevolent kings that you all say didn't know what they were doing. You don't think they knew what they're doing? Huh? Do you honestly not believe these people didn't know what they're doing? The man said he got rich. The king of Dahomey got rich. Dahomey got rich doing this. You walking by and they got heads of your friends and family. With the captives were some of the other tribes' friends who had been visiting in raided villages. Even if you were just visiting somebody, you got caught up. The towns they passed through on their march to the sea: Iko, Bugdre, Adachi, Wida. At Wida was a white house on the riverbank. Behind this was a stockade in which they were held about 3 weeks, at which time Captain Bill Foster came. And this is the one who came from the Clotilda, that one I was telling you about, that Alabama ship, the last one. Captain Foster left Mobile secretly and made a good voyage until he was near Cape Verde Island. A hurricane struck, and he had to put in there for repairs. The northern crew, in other words, he got all these white folks from Alabama, got a whole bunch of northern sailors to come down, and he paid them because it was all a big secret. The northern crew of the Clotilda, or the Clotilda, mutiny for more pay and threatened. Once they, because see, slavery was illegal. The importation of slaves was illegal at the time. And so they were like, well, we're going to mutiny unless you guys give us more money, and we're going to tell it. So Foster hurriedly promised to pay more without the slightest intent of keeping his word. His wife, in relating the incident, marked that Captain had always said that promises were like pie crust, made to be broken. He made friends with the Portuguese officials by gifts of shawls and sailed away when repairs were made and anchored safely in the Gulf of Guinea, where he had to anchor more than a mile from the shore and be taken to land in a small boat. He couldn't come to shore because, remember, you had the English patrolling the west coast of Africa, and they were basically on the hunt for slave ships. And remember, slavery had been illegal for almost over 50 years at this point. So everybody knew it was illegal. And Africans knew it was illegal, but they were willing to do it anyway. On the shore, he was taken by 6 stalwart blacks. This is the white captain. He landed on shore about a mile off. He was taken by 6 black by the prince to be in the presence of the Prince of Dahomey, a great stout black weighing over 300 pounds. So he's saying the prince weighed 300 pounds. He wasn't missing no meals. This prince was hospitable and showed Foster the sights of Wida, one of which was a large square filled with thousands of snakes kept for religious ceremonies. Wishing to make a present to Foster, this prince asked him to select a native, one that the superior wisdom exalted. So in other words, they took him from the shore to the holding pen and said, hey, go get all the slaves you want. This is what we're dealing with. And this is where we are. And we just getting started. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Y'all make sure y'all do what you're supposed to do.
Burning podcast, click your mouse pad. Yeah, we out back. Hit the like, hit subscribe. Don't just hate watch, cause we outside. Let them hate watch, go and play pop. We just lay back. He don't play that. We on playback. We on playback. We go way back. Black men, yeah, we earn something. Tune in, gotta learn something. Uncle D podcast, bump it. Likes up, hit the sub button. Black men, yeah, we earn something. Tune in, gotta learn something. Uncle D podcast, bump it. Likes up, hit the sub button. This is Dennis Burning Podcast. Don't just hate watch, hit subscribe and let them know we outside. Don't hold hate, donate. Super chat, cash app. Put something in the collection plate. Church.
I want y'all to make sure y'all hit the number 1 button. And we're going to kind of get back to what we like to do over here, man. I need y'all to check in at a certain point when it's time to check in. I need to checking in to start happening again. We got to go ahead and get this algorithm pumping. All right, welcome back to the broadcast. This is Dennis Sterling. And the title of this broadcast is called Killmonger Was Right, Why African Americans Must Pay Reparations to Black Americans. So when I say Killmonger was right, I'm referring to the antagonist from the 2018 Marvel movie entitled Black Panther. And from that character's perspective of global injustice and the consequences of colonialism and the diasporas, and when I say diaspora, I'm talking about the African diaspora struggle for justice and recognition. Eric Killmonger, portrayed in the film, is a complex character who challenges the isolationist policies of Wakanda, a technologically advanced African nation that has remained hidden from the rest of the world. His main contention is that Wakanda has the resources and the power to lead a global revolution and uplift African descendants worldwide who have suffered from the legacies of slavery, colonialism, and systematic racism. At no point in the movie does anybody in Wakanda indicate that they don't know about the atrocities that are being suffered by African American people or Africans in the diaspora. In other words, what he's saying, you all have the capability to come save us and you won't. You see? You have the capability of coming to help us and you won't. You've had hundreds of years to come and save us and you haven't. So now, what? You're responsible, especially considered the part you play. Now, the term Killmonger was right. That phrase suggests that I agree with the critique that Killmonger has of Wakanda. In other words, I'm telling you, I agree with the critique, and we can transpose that onto African nations by extension. Okay? You got communities with significant resources and influence that have historically failed to support foundational Black Americans in a tangible way or any impactful ways. The character, and I'm referring back to Killmonger, the character's radical approach to addressing these issues, including his willingness to use force to redistribute power and resources, it strikes a chord with those who feel peaceful negotiations and incremental changes have not sufficiently addressed the grievances and inequalities faced by foundational Black Americans. So by invoking Killmonger's philosophy, I'm highlighting the sentiment that there's a moral obligation for those in positions of power or with substantial resources, whether they be fictional nations like Wakanda or these real African nations like Nigeria and Ghana, who have these resources and oil-rich shorelines to come help us aid in dealing financially in every other way. And if they won't do it, then they need to pay us reparations for these historical injustices. And so basically let this serve as a rallying cry for that reparations. Africans have had 400 years to come to the United States and help us, and they haven't. Now you see them apologizing for the part that they played. And apologies is great. I give you a hand clap for that. But after the apology needs to come restitution. So I want to dig a little bit, and I want to talk about some of the historical aspects of the Clotilda, because as you guys know, Uncle D is probably one of the only ones that is willing to talk about why Africans owe African Americans or foundational Black Americans restitution, a reparation in the form of reparations. Nobody else is willing to do it. Everybody else seems to think that the African participation in the transatlantic slave trade should be overlooked. So I'm going to talk to the street people for a minute. All my street people, all my people who grew up street oriented. If we talking about a prostitute, a pimp, and a John, are we going to arrest the prostitute and the John and not arrest the pimp? Matter of fact, as I recall, the pimp is the only one who committed the felonies. Am I telling the truth? The John, he might get a slap on the wrist. The prostitute, unless she's a repeat offender, they're going to lock up and send her on back out in the streets. It's the pimp. It's this person who suffers the most. In this situation, as far as the transatlantic slave trade, Africa is the pimp because they're the one who corralled all these women illegally, corralled all these people. All the white man was doing was patronizing a pre-existing Black-owned business as related to the transatlantic slave trade. So how can we overlook the part that Africa played? I'm going to give you a specific instance because I got a lot of people out there in YouTube land who don't really understand or refuse to accept the fact that, number one, these African leaders knew exactly what they were doing. They did it for the money, and they were treacherous in their acts, cutting people's heads off, lying in the road with people's family and friends as they marched along. Does this look like a benevolent leader who thought that they were sending us to the United States to enjoy some sort of, peaceful African-style slavery? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They knew exactly what they were doing. Their whole economy was based on the slave trade. They were picking fights just so they could go enslave people. It's documented. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Clotilda. This was the last known U.S. slave ship to bring captives from Africa to the United States, and it arrived at Mobile Bay around July 1860. It had approximately 110 African men, women, and children on this boat. Now you need to understand something. The U.S. involvement in the Atlantic slave trade had been banned by Congress through the act prohibiting the importation of slaves. This was enacted on March 2nd, 1807, and it went into effect on January 1st, 1801. So what does that mean? That means from 1808, or I'm sorry, not 1801, from January 1st, 1808, from 1808 to 1860, the whole world knew that the international slave trade had been banned, and it had been banned in Africa. But the practice continued illegally. Somebody type illegally in the chat room. Okay? Somebody type illegally in the chat room. Again, the transatlantic slave trade had been banned as of January 1st, 1808. And when did the Clotilda make its voyage? July 9th, 1860. We talk about 52 years later. Now, there was other illegal slave trade going on. And that's why you had the English, the Great Britain, the patrolling the west coast of Africa. Now, this illegal slave trade, it especially persisted through slave traders based in New York in the 1850s and the early 1960s. Yeah, even though New York was a Yankee state, they still did business in slavery. But in the case of the Clotilda, the voyage's sponsors were based in the South and planned to buy Africans from Wida in Dahomey. Wida is a little, I guess you would call it a little coastal town in Dahomey. Okay? In the kingdom of Dahomey. After the voyage, the ship was burned and scuttled in Mobile Bay in an attempt to destroy the evidence, but they found it. Now, here's a little bit of the story. Captain William Foster, he was Bill. We referred to him as Bill Foster. He was a captain of the Clotilda, and he was working with somebody named Timothy Mayer, and that was a wealthy Mobile, Alabama shipyard owner and steamboat captain. Now, between 1855 and 1856, Mayer had built the Clotilda, and it had been refitted as a slave ship with a false deck. So in other words, they building the ship and they put a false deck in there. So just in case they get boarded by one of these anti-slavery ships coming out of Great Britain or the United States, they could hide the slaves. All right. Foster also obtained, and this is Captain Foster, obtained papers with the false claim that he was just delivering lumber. You see, because you had to have your paperwork straight, right? Now, what happened was a hurricane hit on their way to Bermuda. A hurricane hit off the coast of Bermuda, and they had to go somewhere and repair the ship. And so while repairing the ship, the crew of 11 men, right, found out the real mission. Mind you, all 11 of these crew members were from New York somewhere. They were up back east, up north somewhere, okay? They didn't want to get anybody. Once this crime was done, they want anybody who knew anything about it to be sent back to where they came from, because they were looking at criminal prosecution for this. This was a criminal act, okay? This was a criminal act. It was illegal under international law. It was illegal under American federal law. It was an illegal act, okay? So from the King of Dahomey to these Timothy Mayer and Captain Foster, everybody knew it was illegal. Okay, so what did they do to persuade the crew members not to alert the authorities? He promised to pay them more. Now, he didn't end up doing it, but he promised to pay them more. So, you know, that's how he kept it intact. So here's the thing. They went to Africa. Meyer had learned that the West African tribes were at war, and that the king of Dahomey, which is now Benin, was willing to sell enemy prisoners as slaves. Now, keep in mind, they say enemy prisoners. They always say, well, no, these people were enemy combatants. No, they were men, women, and children. Okay? That's who they were. They were men, women, and children. And oftentimes, this, as I said earlier, this king, and we're talking specifically about the king of Dahomey, which is where present day Benin is right now, he would pick fights. Send me half your crops. If you don't send me half your crops, I'm going to be offended. And come November, I'm going to come invade you. And so the king of Dahomey's forces, they've been raiding communities in the interior, bringing captives into the large slave market port at Oda, spelled O-U-I-D-A. Now, how did this all come about? Well, this rich Timothy Mayer, he'd made a bet with another wealthy gentleman from New Orleans that he could successfully smuggle Africans into the U.S. despite the 1807 Act prohibiting importation of slaves. This was all a bet. He just bet he could do it, a wager. This is how things operate. Just the way I bet I could do it. And I got the money behind me to see it done. So that's when he hired Captain Foster. And they departed on March 4th, 1860. They sailed from Mobile with that crew of 12, including the captain, and they arrived in Wida on the west coast of Africa in the kingdom of Dahomey on May 15, 1860. where he had the ship outfitted to carry Africans using materials that he had transported. He offered to buy 125 Africans at Wida, and he bought them for $100 each. $100 each. Most of them were said to be from the tribe of Takbar, and they were taken in the rear near what is present-day Ghana. So you got people in Dahomey, these so-called soldiers in Dahomey, going all the way from what is now Benin, the territory of Benin, all the way into Ghana, taking these people from other places. And they're also saying that it could be that they went into Nigeria. It was a mixed bag of people. Now, the captain described his meeting with the African prince. And he said that the African prince took him to the king's court and he observed some religious practices. The Captain Foster wrote in his journal in 1860, having agreeably transacted affairs with the prince, we went to the warehouse. Somebody typed warehouse in the chat room, where they had in confinement 4,000 captives in a state of nudity. You hear me? 4,000. He's coming over there to buy 125. They got 4,000. You think they got 4,000 people because it's only one ship coming? No. You had ships coming from everywhere. This is where your whole pirate, Atlantic Ocean pirate thing comes from. In Louisiana, they have something called contraband days. This was contraband. This is what they did. He went and bought 125. They had 4,000 Africans over there. This is what the king of Dahomey was doing. And then guess what? Once he bought, he said, look, you want us to brand them for you? And the captain said, no, I don't want you to do that. And so they immediately began taking the black Africans that had been captured and who were being held nude for the most part and start putting them on the ships. But here's what happened. As they were loading the ships, the captain saw two steamers, two boats in the ocean, and he's like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. So he told the crew to leave immediately. He had paid for 125. But they were only able to get 120 on the boat. Remember, they were parked about a mile off the shore. So it's not like they could walk from the beach onto the boat. They had to literally take one little boat, go to shore, get 10, 15, put them in the boat, bring them to the boat, take the boat back to the shore and get the rest. So you're talking about multiple trips a mile off the coast. You know how hard it is to swim over those, to take your boat. You got a little wooden raft to take your boat to a mile off the coast. It's a long way. So they didn't have enough time to get all of them. So they left behind 15. They left behind 15 of the people they paid for. And then they saw something called a man of war during the ocean passage. A man of war was the name of a military ship. Okay, this man of war was a military ship, and they saw it overseas, and I guess it began to chase them, but they were able to escape it because some waves came up, and they were able to a squall, what is called a squall, came up, and they were able to outrun the ship. And they reached the Bahamas by June 30th. And so, mind you, the Bahamas are right off the coast of Florida. And so once they got to the coast of Florida, they just began to sail north. And as they neared the United States, they disguised the ship by taking down the square sail yards and put some different sails up, just to disguise it so it make it look like it's not it make it look like it wasn't an international boat. It was just a boat used to sail up the coast, you see? And so that's how they were able to basically dive, which would be the equivalent of the Coast Guard. Finally, on July 9th, they got to Grand Bay, Mississippi. And from there, The captain traveled overland to meet Mr. Mayor and let him know, hey, we here. But now keep in mind, all of this was illegal. They were afraid of criminal charges. So Captain Foster, he sailed the boat, he sailed the Clotilda into the Port of Mobile one night and had it towed up one of the rivers called the Spanish River into the Alabama River. And they got all the Africans off the boat, right? They put them on a river steamboat, and then they burned the Clotilda at the water's edge by sinking it. He paid off the crew and sent them back north and say, don't ever come back down south again. Because remember, we talking about criminal acts. We talking about a violation of federal law, okay? Now, what ended up happening? Well, the African captives were distributed to the financial backers for this Clotilda venture. So you had a lot of other people who were paying for this. You see, Timothy Mayer, the wealthy man who made the bet with the guy in New Orleans, he kept 30 on his own property in North Mobile. And this included Cujo Lewis, who the man who told the story, and also somebody else called Cozola. And despite the, situations in the South where black people didn't have any rights, the Africans from the Clotilda couldn't be legally registered as slaves because they were smuggled in. So there was basically no pedigree. There was no bill of sale like the one I showed you earlier, my relatives and my family. I'm going to put it back up here again. They had to have these sort of records. And so because they couldn't produce any records of who these people were and where they came from, they couldn't be illegal. They couldn't really be sold. And I'm going to put mine up there again so you guys can see it. And for you guys who, let me put this up here. Are y'all with me? Hit the number 1 button if you're with me, man. I hope this is interesting. I'm trying to present to you the argument. Okay. So this is again, and for you guys who don't know, this is my grandmother, Elmira King Williams. She was born in Clarksdale, Mississippi. My grandmother is actually first cousins with B.B. King. And these people right here are all our relatives, right? Yeah, Uncle D is related to B.B. King, apparently, through my grandmother's side. So my grandmother's name is Elmira. And this was her great-great-grandmother's. Well, would have been her great-grandmother. And her great-grandfather, Sam, and his wife, Elmira, and their 6 children, Bet, Alexander, Mary, Martha, and Frank. Frank James King being my great-great-grandfather or my grandmother's father. And these were all slaves. Now, this bill of sale is from the 1850s. You see what I'm saying? So you needed some sort of record in order to sell people, because remember, this was legal business, you see? So these Africans that came from Africa, they didn't have any bill of sale. They just popped up. So they couldn't be registered as slaves because they were smuggled in, but they were still chattel. Okay. So some of the people were sold to places other than that. Some was sold in different parts, but the bottom line is they were sold. And this is what happened. You see? Now, in 1861, this is almost a year later, the federal government decided to prosecute Mr. Timothy Mayer and Mr. Foster, the captain, in Mobile for illegally importing slave import. They found out. But what happened in this criminal prosecution? The case was dismissed. It was dismissed because the captain hid his records of the log, and the ship got burned up, in the manifest, right? And then on top of that, the Civil War broke out. And on top of that, they were trying them in Mobile, Alabama. So, the case, it got dismissed. And you can't try them again because it's res judicata and under a civil aspect, and it's double jeopardy under a criminal aspect. You see? And then on top of that, and this is how we know so much about this case, Captain Foster reported that he burned and sank the Clotilda. Eventually, in May 2019, the Alabama Historical Commission found the wreck, and it's been verified. And they did physical forensic evidence, and it suggested it's the Clotilda. So here's the thing, fam. We have the evidence. Now, we know those two, Mr. Mayor and the captain, Foster, committed a criminal act. We know they did, right? We know they did. But what about the part that the Africans played in this? That's what we want to talk about. Now, I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. Y'all make sure y'all hit the #1 button. I shall return.
Going live in a minute, Blizzard King, this is Winter Dennis Sperling Podcast. You are rocking with the realest black men representing. Ain't no lies, cause we winning, catching flies, ain't no feelings. Uncle D, we the villain, baby. We just left the village, baby. Now we in them villas, baby. Dennis Sperling Podcast, tuning in, we get it, baby. You can hate the player, hate the game, we love all you haters. Hate watch, calling lovely ladies, hands on your knees, you can thank us later. We snatching the crowns off of queens, we obliterate them. Tell the truth, train the devil, they trying to eliminate us. You begging the sipping haters, peeling layers off potatoes. Whoa, Southern Cadillac music like Outkast, ain't jumping without bass. Dennis Sperling Podcast. Whoa, Southern Cadillac music like Outkast, ain't jumping without bass. Dennis Sperling Podcast. Whoa.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast, man. I appreciate you guys. I hope y'all appreciate this. I don't see any Cash App donations or Super Chat donations, but if we do get some, I will make sure you give you guys a shout out for that. I think this is very important. I think this work is very important. I think it's one of those things that will withstand the test of time. Me telling this story really helps the reparation arguments, because there are people out there who say, oh, slavery was 200, 300, 500, 1,000 years ago. It has no relevance now. But that's not true. There are still people right now specifically related to these Africans who were illegally brought here under the Clotilda, in the Clotilda, who can still be found, right? There's still 30, let me say it like this. After the Civil War happened, Kasala, one of the women I mentioned earlier, her and 31 other formerly enslaved people founded Africatown. And it's right there on the north side of Mobile, Alabama. If you've been down I-10, it's right there on the north side of Mobile. Okay? And they were joined by other continental Africans, and they formed a community, and they continue to practice many of their West African traditions and Yoruba language right now. And the spokesperson for the community was Cujo Lewis up until 1935. And he was one of the last survivors of the Clotilda. So he was 19 years old when he was captured and brought to the United States. Okay. And he stayed, and he was alive until 1935. Some of y'all have relatives that are still alive right now who were around in 1935 in your lifetime. If you were born in the 1970s or so, you got relatives that were your grandmothers that were around in. So you got firsthand knowledge, secondhand knowledge of that. Okay? So let's not continue to pretend like this was so ancient. It's not that ancient. But either way, so now at this time, there's about 100 descendants of these enslaved African people who were carried here on the Clotilda, and they still live in Africatown right now. Okay? Right now. You see? They still attend the church, Unionary Missionary Baptist Church, right now. And some people don't understand. Well, why is it that you did? Because they were illegally stolen against the law, which took place in 1808. It was illegal, and they were stolen. And they're right there, and they need to be compensated, right? I think so. They're right there. They're right there. So let's talk a little bit more. So we talked about the king of Dahomey, didn't we? We talked about him. A few highlights from that story. So the king of Dahomey, when the captain went to the king's courtyard, when the captain went to the quarters where the slaves were being kept, He saw 4,000 slaves in the court. All this white man was doing was patronizing the pre-existing black-owned business. I'm not letting European enslavers off the hook. I'm asking you to punish everybody in the line. And what I'm doing here is I'm pushing forward and laying the legal framework for reparations from African slave trading countries where the former kingdoms used to exist. And some of y'all said, well, the kingdoms no longer exist. But you still got people over there referring to themselves as chiefs. Somebody type African chief in the chat room. Shout out to James Timmons. Thank you for being the first person to contribute to the super chat. You saying that the kingdoms no longer exist, but you still got men over there who call themselves chiefs. You can't have it both ways. I understand why Africans don't like this. I understand why you wouldn't like this at all if you were African. We finally now just about to come up. We finally got our oil money together, and now these pesky African Americans are telling us we need to pay them reparations. Yes. Yes. Shout out to my man, Real Dale Jenkins. Yes, you need to pay us. You need to pay us for the part that you played. You've had at least 100 years to see us struggle over here, to see us come up out of slavery and come up out of segregation, and you did nothing. You didn't send any boats to come pick us up. You watched us struggle on TV and in the newspaper, and you knew the plight that we were dealing with, and you didn't come get us. For hundreds of years, at least for the last 100 years, when news and newspaper articles and television and radio has been prominent, you got firsthand knowledge of what we've been dealing with, and you didn't come get us. So what does that mean? That means you didn't want to come get us. You rejected us. You make it so difficult for us to come back to Africa, to the countries that we were supposed to, that we came from. Benin, Togo, Nigeria, Ghana, the Gambia. You make it so difficult. It's impossible for us to go. Most African Americans can't afford to go back anyway. And you haven't provided any opportunity for us to do so. So it lets us know you don't care about us. So what are we supposed to do? Sit by and let you reap the benefits of what you took from us? Now let's talk about these African kings. Somebody type African king in the chat room. There's an African king, his name was Gizzo. Ghezo, and he ruled from 1858 to 1889. All right? Okay? Well, let me say it like this. Gizzo was the father. Glilil continued his father's reign. And he also continued his war campaigns. He captured slaves, and during his rule, he sustained the homies' renaissance as a so-called palm oil sales, but he kept up the slave trade. Glilil also signed treaties with the French, who had previously acquired concession in Porto Novo from its king. In other words, yeah, y'all can come down. This is from 1858 to 1889. And y'all say they didn't know? You got African kings out here signing treaties. Look him up. I'm going to type his name in the chat room. Look him up. King Glilil of Dahomey. Now, let me tell you about him. He resisted British diplomatic overtures. Why do you think that is? Well, he ain't like the fact that they were in opposition to the slave trade. He worked with the French, though, because the French, even though they outlawed slavery at the end of the 18th century, they still allowed the trade to continue elsewhere. In other words, they didn't get off in your business. Britain outlawed slavery in the United Kingdom and in its overseas possessions in 1833. And its navy made raids against slavers along the west coast of Africa starting in 1840 because the African kings wouldn't stop. For generations, for hundreds of years, almost half a millennia, Africa's economy had become based on the slave trade. They wasn't doing they wasn't farming. They weren't doing any farming. Shout out to my man, John David. Thank you so much for the $10. They weren't farming. Slavery was their big business. And this is despite the former end of the slave trade and the attempts by the Europeans and the new powers to shut it down. Galileo continued slavery as a domestic institution. His fields were primarily cared for by slaves, and the slaves became a major source of his messengers to the ancestors. What does that mean? That means when somebody important died, they'd sacrifice a bunch of slaves, a bunch of other black people, and put them in the ground with them in ceremonies. You think these are people that cared about you and what happened to you when you got to America? They probably say you're better off over there. My man, the real Dale Jennings said, can't even claim citizenship ability to return aid. It's so sad to them, look down on us with the big British wife, LOL. Yeah, we have no friends, right? I want y'all to understand where I'm coming from. Now, as I spoke on earlier in 1860, Galileo, the king, he met with King Foster, with Captain William Foster, the captain of the Clotilda. This was the final ship to illegally take slaves to the United States. Why did he meet with them? Why do you think the captain had to meet with the king? Well, they presume it's because the king had to approve the sale, the illegal sale. So you don't think that this King Galileo of Dahomey, which is now Benin, had any fault? You selling something that's illegal? What happens if you sell illegal merchandise? Huh? Do they punish the one who bought it? Yes, but they also punish the one who stole it and sold it. Now let's talk a little bit about Galileo's father, Gizzo. He was a king of Dahomey from 1818 until 1859. Keep in mind, slavery, the international slave trade had ended about 10 years before. The importation of slaves had ended in 1808. He became king in 1818, and he stayed there until 1859. Gizzo had replaced his brother, who ruled from 1797 to 1818. All of these men were slavers. All of these kings sanctioned slavery. How did Gizzo take over? He got with some Brazilian slave traffickers, specifically somebody named Francisco Felix de Souza, and overthrew his own brother. He had to deal with the British blockade of the ports of Dahomey. They wouldn't stop selling slaves. So they had to block their ports. This is what the British did. The British literally had to park their ships off the coast of Dahomey to stop them from trading slaves. This is how adamant these African kings that we've been told to look up to, all y'all wanted to be African kings. They literally had to stop them from selling us into slavery by force. This way had to deal with. Now let me tell you how cold this cat was. He got on the throne in 1818, and he was confronted with two major problems. The first problem was that his country was in political turmoil because it was financially unstable. It needed to gain political independence, and they did so by removing the hold that the Yoruba Empire of Oyo had over the Dahomey people in 1748. That's what your movie was about. The whole woman king. They had to get them up off their back, and then they also had to revitalize the Dahomey economy. And both of these objectives relied on the slave trade. So what did King Gizzo do? He implemented a new military strategy, which allowed them to take a physical stand against their nemesis, the Oyo Empire, who were also their major competitor in the slave trade. So it's not just this one guy. You got folks over here in Nigeria doing the same thing. This was their major competitor. And when you start digging into the history, you start seeing, damn, all of them was involved in it. And they knew what they were doing. They cutting people's heads off and putting them on stake. You walking by, you seeing you on your way to the coast. These Africans are putting you in bondage. You see? Now, Dahomey, they focused on capturing people from enemy territories and trading them. They did that. But guess what ended up happening? At a certain point, they ran into a lot of competition and opposition. They lost against some people called the Mahai people, who are to the north of Dahomey, and they were unable to secure enough individuals to meet the slave demands. You understand what I'm saying? This is after slavery had ended, the international slave trade had ended, and because they were unable to, they still had a big demand. People still coming over there. So what about reparations? Let's stick a pin in this. What about reparations for all of those people who can trace their ancestry back to Africans who were sold after the slave trade the international slave trade had become illegal? What about those Africans? Because see, a lot of people will argue, well, the African slave trade was legal, and so therefore nobody broke the law. Shouldn't somebody have, if you don't believe in the moral immorality of slavery, certainly you can believe in the fact that somebody knew that it was illegal. Everybody knew it was illegal at the time, and they did it anyway. Surely they must pay for their criminal acts. They call that restitution. But anyway, this African king Gizzo, he got whooped on, excuse my colloquial language, but the Mahi people, spelled M-A-H-I people to the north of Dahomey, they whooped on them real tough, to the point that they couldn't go get slaves from them. They whooped on them too tough. And what did that do? Let me tell you how cold this king of Dahomey was. He began to sell his own citizens from the Dahomey tribes, from the Dahomey kingdom. And it was a very unpopular decision. But this is how necessary the slave trade was. Now you got people selling your own people. So for those of you all who say, oh, well, the Africans, they were selling neighboring tribes. No, it's documented that they began to capture and sell their own people. King Gizzo, after he lost against the Mahi people, he began to sell his own citizens into slavery. And it was a very unpopular decision. Look it up. Look it up. You see? There was a time it got so hard on him, he was trying to attack a place in the Ogun state of southwest Nigeria called Abeokuta. They said, look, we abolishing slave catching in our state. Gizzo in 1851, Gizzo organized a direct attack on the city of Abeokuta, A-B-O-K-U-T-A, but it didn't succeed. Now, any of you Africans who don't like the way I'm pronouncing these words, I wouldn't have a problem pronouncing these words had my ancestors not been sold into Africa, sold out of Africa into the United States. So yeah, I might be butchering your language the same way you all butchered my ancestors. So forgive me or don't forgive me. Either way, it don't matter. Cut the check. Nevertheless, let's get back to it. In 1852, Gizzo, he tried to suspend us. Why? He tried to stop the slavery business. Okay, like we need to give it. Why? Because he got put under pressure by the British government. There was a gentleman named, the British governor's name was William Wynette, and he was a British naval officer, or should I say the British governor and a British naval officer, Frederick E. Forbes. They went on a couple of missions and they talked to the king, and and they tried to convince him to end his involvement. But let me hear, this is what I want. I want you to hear what the king had to say in response to that. These are his words. Okay. Now, the Brazil demand for slaves increased in the 1830s. So you still, even if they weren't coming to America, Brazil said, send all you got. So the slave trade was still on, headed to South America. Okay. And the British started a campaign to abolish the slave trade in Africa. The British government began putting significant pressure on King Gizzo in the 1840s to end the slave trade in Dahomey. And King Gizzo responded to this request by saying he was unable to end the slave trade because of domestic pressure. What does that mean? That means the people that I'm around, my subjects, are getting rich. The nobles, the everyday people, this is keeping the economy going. If I try to end the slave trade, I'm gonna have an uprising. So we're not just talking about an issue with the leadership. Even the regular day-to-day people are like, nah, let's keep on selling these black folks. You see? Let's keep, they weren't selling, look, they were selling their own people. Did you hear that part? They were selling their own people. It's in these books. Hell, you can look this up on Wikipedia. And they have references they can point you to. They were selling everybody. Their own people, neighboring people, anybody they can get hold of. $100 a pop was a lot of money back then. You see? But what else did he say? Other than the fact that he was dealing with domestic pressure. The slave trade is the ruling principle of my people. You hear that? It is the source and glory of our wealth. The mother lulls the child to sleep with notes of triumph over an enemy reduced to slavery. You hear that? They relished in this. This is what they did. This is their identity. Anybody could get it. You understand? Everybody was getting sold. Their own people, neighboring people. It wasn't germane to one race or religion. Everybody. He additionally explained to the British that the entire region had become dependent on the transatlantic slave trade for profit. So ending it in one day would destabilize his kingdom and lead to anarchy. In other words, he'd be overthrown. You understand what I'm saying? And he wasn't just the only one. There was another guy named King William Dapper, people of Boney and Corsico took the same stance towards the British request. So all of these little kings and whatnot around there were against this. You understand? It wasn't just the homie. It was all of them. These are your African kings that you're trying to protect. These are the African kings that you all think should be given the benefit of the doubt. They didn't know what they were doing. Clearly, they knew what they were doing. He tried to end slavery. He said, yeah, okay, we'll stop doing it for a little while. We'll sell this palm oil. He did that in 1852, but they started back doing it 5 years later in 1857. until he got killed. Somebody assassinated him. Now, some of you are saying, well, you know, that was back then. I know we got some African folks in here saying, well, you know, that was a kingdom, that was a chief. And those kingdoms don't exist anymore. Okay, so let's think about it. We talked about Galileo, right? We talked about Gizzo, his father. The French took over Dahomey in 1892. And they gave Dahomey their rulership back in 1960. So that's 68 years. So you telling me for the 400 or 500 years preceding that these countries and these kingdoms were involved in slavery, they are now, because of the 68 years that they were colonized, from 1892 to 1860, that debt is now erased, even though there are people there who still refer to themselves as chiefs. There were people who were there when the king ruled, and they were people, and those same people were still alive when colonialism ended, and they still reap the benefit of it. That's what you're trying to tell me? No, that's not good enough. If you take over a country and it comes from one form of government, from a monarchy to a republic, or becomes colonized, you owe not only you don't only take over the resources, you also owe the debts for that. The French took over in 1892. The government outlawed slaves. They outlawed the sale of slaves. That's the first thing the French did. They outlawed slavery. That's what colonialism did to Dahomey. They outlawed the export of slaves. They outlawed slavery, something the king himself wouldn't do. And then in 1958, France granted autonomy to the Republic of Dahomey. So it went from a monarchy to a republic. It gave them their full independence on August 1st, 1960. So you telling me that there's no recompense for those, there's no restitution for our African brothers who were captured and enslaved during the time period when slavery was illegal? I'm gonna let y'all think about that for a minute. You think about that for a minute. We'll be right back. Y'all hit the #1 button, man. Y'all think about this. We're gonna talk about it. Hit the #1 button. I'll be right back.
Going live in a minute, Blizzard King, this is Winter Dennis Sperling Podcast. You are rocking with the realest black men represented. Ain't no lies, cause we winning, catching flies, ain't no feelings. Uncle D, we the villain, baby. We just left the village, baby. Now we in them villas, baby. Dennis Sperling Podcast, tuning in, we get it, baby. You can hate the player, hate the game, we love all you haters. Hate watch, hate watch. Calling lovely ladies, hands on your knees. You can thank us later. We snatching the crowns off of queens, we obliterate them. Tell the truth, train the devil, they trying to eliminate us. You begging the sipping haters, peeling layers off potatoes. Whoa, Southern Cadillac music like Outkast. Ain't jumping without bass. Dennis Sperling Podcast. Whoa, Southern Cadillac music like Outkast. Ain't jumping without bass. Dennis Sperling Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put the link in the chat room because I know I got a lot of people out there that got a lot of theories, and I'm gonna invite y'all in to come on up here and get some of this. This is the link to the conversation. I'm not finished yet. I got some more to talk about here, but the link to this conversation is coming. Y'all come on in the bullpen and chill, and we'll talk about this. Anybody who has any questions, you're welcome to come in. The link is right there in the chat room. Mods, make sure you repost this link. Anybody who wants to come on up in here, you're welcome to come in here. Now, here's the thing. Killmonger was right. Africa has basically ignored the plight of African Americans, and clearly they played a part in it. Let me talk to y'all for a minute. Africa had hundreds of years to come get us. They knew what we had been going through here in the U.S. Instead, they ignored us. And after we fought all of the significant battles, they sent their elite, the elite among African society, to come not to help us, not to come help us, but to take the set-asides that we fought for, that we fought so hard. On top of that, they mocked us. They made fun of us. They called us names like a kata, which translates loosely to stray cat, a cat without a home. They called us slaves and descendants of slaves. They tell us all the time, you're not African. So now we accept that. We do. We accept that. I accept that. I'm not African. But let me tell you something else. Let me quote my African brothers and sisters. Old African proverb: the child that doesn't feel the warmth of the village will burn it down. Have y'all heard that before? The child that does not feel the warmth of the village will come back and burn it down. And I got a torch in my hand. See, you never look to share the wealth with my people. And when I say my people, I'm talking about foundational Black Americans, the ones you helped sell into slavery, even after slavery became illegal. You niggas left us hanging. You didn't come get us. So we coming to take back what was stolen from us. And there's nothing you can do about it. See, I represent a Black man that is fully American. I acknowledge my African heritage and roots, but I'm an American. I'm culturally American. And how do I know that? Because, well, your people and your government treat us like we're Americans. You don't treat us like we're African. You don't treat African Americans like we're African. Look at what's going on. Look how you treat us when we come over there. In the past 2 years, 5 to 6 African women have been killed in the Gambia, allegedly by their husbands. And these same African husbands are now living in these women's houses. These women went back to the African continent not to make war, but to rekindle with their African roots. And now these women have been murdered, unalived. That's the welcome that we get back? Why would I want to come back to that? You call us names. When you come over here, you purposely separate yourself from us Africans, and we romanticized Africa. You say we're not African. You say we're not African. That's what you say. You set the rules of the game. You all decided that we were opposition, so now let's play the position. Let's maximize the benefit associated with becoming the opposition. Cut the check. Now, on me personally, because see, I know I got a lot of haters out there. I got a lot of people who have a problem with this. Because you still romanticize Africa. There's still people who, after me reading from these firsthand accounts, still believe that these African kings, these benevolent kings, didn't know what they were doing. And my brother just told you, as he was being marched to the coast, he saw the heads of his friends and family on poles as he walked by. Out of the man's mouth himself, he said, hey, the king's mouth himself, we did it for the money. So I don't need your opinions or your advice or your money. I've made a decision related to how I'm moving forward with this FBA fight for reparations. Let me say that again. I have made a decision on how I am moving forward on this FBA fight for reparations. And I didn't ask your advice. I don't want it, and I don't need your opinions, and I don't need your money. And see, I know that is foreign to a lot of you matriarchal minded men and women with that village mentality, that African village mentality, where you all sit around and think up a plan. But again, as I say, I'm Americanized. I'm westernized. Yeah. What that translates to is the world belongs to whoever is strong enough to take it and hold on to it. That's my philosophy. So I'm not asking for your opinion. Matter of fact, your opinion is unwanted. And here's another one. If you all could have done something, or you wanted to do something, you would have done something before I showed up. See, this is a one-man show. I will pay people to execute my instructions as needed. And there's nothing you can do about it. Absolutely nothing. You can't stop me. I recognize the foundational Black American people are owed reparations. And we're not asking, we're taking it. As we speak, I'm using my own money and my own resources and my own knowledge and my own connections to publish legal literature and articles on this very subject, informing the entire American legal community of this potential lucrative resource. Oh, Lord. What? Yes. I'm going to tell all these white lawyers and all these white law firms there's hundreds of millions, billions, and trillions of dollars that we can extract from Africa. Go on, get yourself some of these foundational Black American clients. Go on, round them up. I'm basically ringing the dinner bell, ding, 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 for every lawyer in America to go after these burgeoning African nations and economies. Yes, to use the American legal system to force you to pay the debt that you inherited from your kingdoms and predecessors. See, at the end of the day, my goal is to put money in the pockets and bank accounts of foundational Black Americans. Let me say that again. My goal is to put cash money in the pockets and bank accounts of my FBA brothers and sisters, my people. Somebody say Killmonger was right. Somebody say Killmonger was right. My goal is to what? Put money in the pockets and bank accounts of my foundational African American. Not run no goddamn scholarships. I don't want no scholarships. I don't want no trust funds. I want you to pay them what you owe them in cash money or gold. We'll take gold. We'll take silver. And what they do with it ain't none of my business. I'm not out here to treat my people like they're children. It ain't none of my business what they do with their money. And that's the same mentality that Africans had when they kidnapped us from our shores and took our land and sold us to the white European slavers, waiting at the shores on the African coast. It wasn't none of their business what they did with us after they sold, as long as they got their $100 for each one of us. What they did with us for the past 405 years. That wasn't none of their business, right? None of their concern. As long as they got paid. Well, that's how I feel. So now it's time for payback. And I'm going to do my part to make sure that foundational Black American people take everything they are owed. Now, I'm going to tell you something about my people because I know my people very well. See, when it's time to line up for checks, when it's time to line up for checks, my people don't care where the money came from. All they care is that they're getting paid. That's all they care about. So all of you all who are still romanticizing Africa, that's fine. You don't have to get your check. We'll redistribute it and give it to somebody else. Now, here's something I want you to understand, and this is my main thing. By me pointing out the fact that Africans played a part in this, This automatically eliminates the argument that Africans have that they should be entitled to reparations. All the new Africans who came here in 1980 and whatnot, this automatically eliminates you. You see what I just did? Because see, the minute black folks, foundational black Americans start talking about reparations, you're going to have white folks lining up, Mexicans lining up, Native Americans lining up, Africans lining up, Caribbean folk lining up, saying, well, we should get checks too because we are subject to slavery and we're subject to oppression. No. This is for the illegal sale of Africans. And we just limited it right now. You gotta bite this elephant. You gotta eat this elephant one bite at a time. Let's talk about the Africans who were stolen from Africa from 1808 after it was illegal, moving forward to when slavery ended. That's about a 52-year time period. Let's talk about how we can get reparations for those people. And then we can move forward and beyond that. But that is to me, within the confines of the law, there's a legal argument to be made that these people are entitled to restitution. Now that might not be all of Black America, but hell, that's probably $1 trillion in itself. The captain said it was 4,000 people in the King's Court, and that was just one place on the coast. There was lots of other kings. Let's begin to work on that. Nevertheless, I want to talk about my opposition to reparations. I want to talk about not the Africans and the Caribbeans and all these other people and the typical American citizens who have a problem with it. I want to talk about the foundational Black American people who are opposed to getting our reparation money from these African governments. See, I expect Africans to be against it because it goes against their interests, right? They're the ones receiving the justice that they deserve, and you got to pay up. But why am I foundational Black American? Why would you be against this? I want to address that. Somebody type pro-Black in the chat room. Somebody type pro-Black in the chat room. Let's start with them. Now, let me tell you what I think about pro-Blacks. The so-called pro-Blacks, not the ones from back in the day who were really pro-Black and really put it on the line. I'm talking about these ones these days who hide their faces. The truth is, they want to be white supremacists, and they're white supremacists in blackface. Huh? What do you mean? They want to rule over you. They want to tell you what to do. They simply want to take the place of the white supremacists. They think they're better than you. Go talk to one of them. Listen how they talk to you. They talk to you like you're stupid, like you don't know anything. Many of them are cowards anyway, especially these modern day ones that hide their identities online. But if you dig a little bit into their history, what you'll find is many of them are criminals. They got significant criminal activity in their life. Some of them are sex addicts, drug addicts, alcoholics. They drug addicts and sexaholics with superiority complexes. This is who you're dealing with. That's your pro-Blacks. Why would they not want me to get reparations from Africa? Because it goes against their narrative. It goes against their narrative. It goes against their mantra. And another one, these Pan-Africanists. These are two-faced, disloyal people because their loyalty is divided and they can't be trusted. Let me say this again. I am 100% all the way down with foundational Black American, FBA people getting their money. These are my people. That has a lot to do with the fact that I am from South Central LA. And I understand how to pick my side. That's my side. And my loyalty is not questioned. That's my side. And in a fight, I'm gonna pick my side. You can't be a Pan-Africanist in this and then be against Black folks, Black Americans, foundational Black Americans receiving royalties from Africans. You caught up. I can't trust you. Your loyalty is divided. You can't be trusted. You need to pick a side. Are you going to be loyal to foundational Black Americans? Or are you going to be loyal to your so-called African brothers who sold you into slavery? A lot of these fall under the guise of Black intellectuals. They call this divisive, and they can't support anything divisive. But what you need to understand, we got a whole ocean that divided us. We divided by culture. We've been divided by 500 years in multiple treacherous acts of betrayal. You Black intellectuals, broke, most of y'all, dying penniless, the vast majority of y'all. You derive your righteousness from your poverty, as if that's an attribute. How do you manage to stay broke for your entire life in the richest economy in the world? You had to work real hard at that. More important, why would I believe you use you to come up with a game plan? That's why you've been off base. You haven't built any institutions. All you do is sit around and complain about the hardworking Black businessmen and women who finance and run what we have. You get angry with the institutions that we have because you say they aren't pure. You understand me? And I'm going to read this, and I'm going to go ahead and open up this chat room. We got a couple of people in the chat room who are brave enough to come in here. I want to know the opposition. Where you at? Come on up in here. Let's talk about it. But before we do, look at this. I want you to remember this. These Black intellectuals, these so-called Black intellectuals, this is what they gave us. Why is it that you don't know about the Clotilda? Why is it that you don't know about the part that Africa played in the slave trade? Why is that? Huh? Why is that not part of history? Why we don't talk about that during Black History Month? Huh? Let's read this again. Reading Barracoon, which is the book that we talked about earlier, which means barracks, one understands immediately the problem many Black people years ago, especially Black intellectuals and political leaders, had with it. It resolutely records the atrocities African peoples inflicted on each other long before shackles of Africans, traumatized, ill, disoriented, starved, arrived on the ships as Black cargo in the hellish West. Who could face this vision of the violently cruel behavior of the brethren and the sistren who first captured our ancestors? Who would want to know via blow-by-blow account how African chiefs deliberately set out to capture Africans from neighboring tribes to provoke wars of conquest in order to capture for slaves trade people, for the slave trade people, men, women, children who belong to Africa, and to do this in so hideous a fashion that reading about it 200 years later brings waves of horrors and distress. This is, make no mistakes, a harrowing read. It's your Black intellectuals that didn't want you to know about it, fam. Your Black intellectuals like Carter G. Woodson, who is known as the father of Black history. You understand? The father of Black history, Carter G. Woodson. These are the ones that purposely kept it, and the politicians, because it didn't suit them. But now we're dealing with it. Either way, the link to the chat room is in here. We'll take a quick break. We let y'all come up in here. Come on in. Let's talk about it. Y'all hit the #1 button. We'll be right back shortly. Again, make sure you show your appreciation by hitting the like button, hitting the #1 button. Again, I'll be right back. Y'all come up in here. Let's chop it up.
Burning podcast, click your mouse pad. Yeah, we out back. Hit the like, hit subscribe. Don't just hate watch the we outside. Let them hate watch. Go and play pop. We just lay back. He don't play that. We don't play back. We don't play back. We go way back. Black men, yeah, we earn something. Tune in, gotta learn something. Uncle D podcast, bump it. Likes up, hit the sub button. Black men, yeah, we earn something. Tune in, gotta learn something. Uncle D podcast, bump it. Likes up, hit the sub button. This is Dennis Spurling Podcast. Don't just hate watch, hit subscribe and let them know we outside. Don't hold hate, donate, super chat, cash app, put something in the collection plate. Church.
I want y'all to make sure y'all hit the number 1 button. And we're going to kind of get back to what we like to do over here, man. I need y'all to check in at a certain point when it's time to check in. I need to checking in to start happening again. We got to go ahead and get this algorithm pumping. All right, welcome back to the broadcast. We got some fellas in the chat room. I first want to read these super chats. Shout out to Brandon Jackson. I'm down for this fight. Thank you so much, Brandon, for the 1999. Chris 1911 said, we look up to them as they look down at us. Ain't that the truth? Cut the check. Shout out to my man. Shout out to Erica for the 250. I don't know what kind of money that is, but thank you so much for the $10, man. Showing my support to you, sir. Thank you so much. The real Dale Jennings can't even claim citizenship, ability to return aid. It's sad to see them look down on us with a big British wife. LOL, we have no friends. Dr. John Henry Clark. Yeah, ain't that the truth? The real Dale Jennings spent almost 4 decades studying, never told. I know. Ain't that something? You got to hunt this down. Anyway, shout out to everybody. The link is in the chat room. Where everybody at? Where we at? Come on up in here, brother. Welcome, Dale Jennings. How you doing? Shout out to my man, Brandon Jackson. Thank you so much for the $20. Lim Hendricks, thank you for the 25. And Jay Davis, thank you for the 10. So, brother, I've laid it out here. I may not have finalized giving you specifics on the argument, but what are your thoughts on this initial? What are your thoughts on this broadcast? What are your thoughts on this line of thought? Go ahead.
My thought is simple: it's about time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a lawyer. I have friends who work in the law profession. I've worked in both political sides of the world, and you always hear this talk. Oh, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. We're gonna have a study. We're gonna give y'all some hot chicken plates and some mash and cheese, and we're gonna send Uncle Joe Biden down with a sack of brown paper bag lunch, and he go vote Democratic again, and we'll think about talking about reparations. Then when we get in, like Kamala Harris did the same thing, come down to Spelman and talk about, we need to talk about reparations because it's really viable. Then she forgets that, she came from Jamaica. I'm just tired of hearing the BS. It's way overdue. It's good to see somebody with a legal mind doing it, because only thing this country understands is money and blood.
Right. But do you see the argument that I'm putting forth? Like, here's what's happening. It's going to be, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. The climate is that it would be nearly impossible to force the United States government to pay Black Americans reparations from the coffers of the U.S. Treasury. You understand why that would be? Huh?
Yep.
You got a direct conflict of interest. You got people sitting on the jury who would be responsible for paying the debt. It's like when you sue the city. It's like, damn, or sue the county. The people sitting in the jury box are the people who will end up having to foot the bill for that.
Exactly. That's why.
Now let's flip the script. How many Black folks or how many American citizens would feel sorry for African countries if they are forced to pay African Americans $1 trillion, $2 trillion
None.
for their part they played in slavery?
None.
You see the logic in that, though? I mean, you see why?
No.
And all that would matter, all that we would need is a little slight change in the law, the same thing that the 9/11 victims were able to do when they were allowed to sue the Saudi Arabian government for their participation of their citizens in the 9/11. You see that?
Yeah.
You see that?
That makes sense. Same. That's what they did with the Jews. All they did was took exactly what happened with the Jews after World War II. Applied the same thing.
And then, and some of you all, well, not you, brother, but no, I don't know. And look, the link is in the chat. Where's all them people that on the internet had a whole lot to say? Where the internet at? The internet had a lot to say. Well, he don't know what we talking about. And where y'all at? I'm here to talk.
That's
I'm
like
here to answer your
say,
questions.
cam up. That's plenty for money.
I normally charge $1,000 an hour. You could talk to me for free right now. Well, come on and get where y'all at. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
The call on Chaos Rain. I want you to come in here. Come on in, Chaos Rain. Come on in, Chaos Rain. I want you to come in here and I want you to talk to me about the conversation that took place on your channel after my initial little rant that I put on, and just trying to explain to people the legal rationale and the common sense. Look, hey, black folks, white people in America and the rest of Americans aren't going to rob the treasury of the American, the U.S. Treasury to pay you your $1 trillion. But you know what? There's another culprit out there. There's another potential defendant out there. There's another defendant, i.e. the source of the problem, who you could sue right now. You know what they're saying? Africa is going to be the new thing in the century to come. Why?
Give me those 40 acres.
Resources, they got oil. They got, so you gonna let them just get away? They coming up, they rich now. They rich. They got all the technology and all the money, and they done sold you over here, and you just gonna let them get away with that and not get paid? I'm just asking, but I did, I feel like if I say, look, man, I got a $3 million check for you, come on down here and pick it up. Do you want it or not?
I'll take that.
What you gonna say? My man Glow Hardy, welcome to the broadcast. Come on in. Let's talk. Let's go ahead and have a conversation. Glow, bro, what's happening? Talk to me. Tell me what questions do you have about the principle behind the legal argument and the legal argument? What questions do you have? Talk to me. I want to hear it. Go ahead.
So I'm more so like when we talk about reparations and we talk about how we were considered after the Constitution was published or I forget established. After the Constitution was established, we were acknowledged by the Constitution well after it was established as like full people. So I'm wondering what type of clause would give us the ability to seek compensation for that?
All right, so here's the thing, brother. I don't want you to, there's a lot of different reasons why a lot of different people were taken into slavery until it was outlawed here in the United States, until after the Civil War in 1865. We're focusing on the Clotilda incident, and we're talking about all the illegal activities surrounding slavery from the time period of 1808, okay, when it was declared illegal, moving forward. Okay, so I want you to stay focused on that time period. A criminal act took place.
Right, because
the transatlantic slave trade was illegal, or transportation of slaves from Africa to the New World was made illegal by international treaty and the United States and under American law from 1808 moving beyond. Yet we have an incident that is well documented, which took place in 1860, where approximately 110 Africans were taken at the behest not Africans, 110 Dahomian, Nigerian, and African citizens in those kingdoms was taken, and it is documented. Are those people owed restitution?
Of course.
Okay, so we're not even talking about a civil case at this point. We're talking about criminal restitution. Now, why is it that we can't sue the captain and Mr. Meharry? Why is it that we can't put them in jail? Why is that? Why is that? Now catch up now. Why is that?
They were complicit. Like
they were double jeopardy. Double jeopardy. Remember I talked to y'all earlier and I said they had been tried back in 1861 or 1862 when it was, remember that? You can't try a person twice for the same crime.
Right.
Okay, so stop. So who hasn't been tried for this crime?
The people who sold us over here in the first
Who
place.
is the people in this particular incident?
Africa.
No, don't give me Africa. Africa is a continent. Who were the people who were complicit in this specific crime?
Wasn't it the king of
What is his name?
What
year did it take place? July 1860. Who was the king of where did these people come from? The Clotilda.
You said the Clotilda.
Hold on. See, this is why, and I'm not down on you, but I love you. I love you, you're my little brother. But this is like the Socratic method. This is why law school, this is what happens in law school. You got to listen. You see what I mean? Because I gave all these facts in here, but the reason there's so much misinformation about what reparations is and what I'm trying to do is because people aren't listening. I gave you the time, the date, the location, and all the perpetrators. Okay? And so you see what I'm saying? And these people are responsible for this crime. And they are the descendants of these people who would not otherwise be here but for these criminal acts. The two white men had been tried. There was no evidence, but now there's new evidence. You see what I mean? Now, under a criminal matter, it'd be easy to prove, but it would be the state to do that. But now that we have enough evidence to prove what would have normally been a criminal matter, I'm sure with a few changes in the law, we can hold these people civilly responsible for their criminal acts. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
With quasi-criminal, whatever, because it was criminal, it was illegal. Let me get my man, what questions do you have? And I'm gonna go to Chaos Reign real quick. Go ahead. You having another question, Glow?
No. I was waiting for more input.
Yeah, man. Just you got to listen to this broadcast. It's complicated, but it's not that complicated. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was here. I want you to know I was here and I was paying attention. I guess
it's a lot. It's fact intensive. Yes. Chaos Reign. So you had a broadcast about a week or two ago, and a lot of folks came on. I think you even had a lawyer come on there and tell you that, oh man, that never happened.
Yeah, the one Mr. Amir, when I asked the question about the plan, and he did see your video to the point he played it on his own channel, you know, to try to break down why that is not possible. And if
is he a lawyer? Where did he get his law degree from?
You know, I'd never asked him because I was sitting back and I never got my question asked.
So he's not a lawyer and he's trying to break down a legal argument?
I don't know what he was breaking out.
Okay, well, tell us what happened.
But for Dinah's rhetoric, he said that there's no way that Africa could pay Black people in America reparations because it did not exist. All these other European nations did not establish Africa after cut up since the late 1800s. So in his logic, he thinks and believes that Africa don't owe Black people in America nothing. Because
Africa is a continent, okay, and not all African nations participated in the slave trade.
Correct.
We're talking about the specific African nations that exist now, and we're talking about the nations, the kingdoms that came before them. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, correct.
So by his logic, I want him to hear me. By his logic, England is not responsible. The country of England, which is not responsible for all the atrocities that they committed on the brown people of the world, because the aristocracy of England is no longer in power. So that the Queen of England, the jewels that she took from all these different places, they don't have to give it back. The nation, the republic, that democratic republic that we call the UK, they don't have to give any of it back because you know what? The king and the queen have been done away with. They're no longer in power. Is that what they're arguing?
Well, you know, since you lay that out, I'd like him to answer that since you present that, because their focus mostly, and you know, another consecrate, which I'm not gonna name, you know who I'm talking about. That
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But what I'm saying is, a lot of these so-called pro-blacks, these people, they are so blinded that they can't see that what they're saying is opening is what they think they're closing the door to is closing the door to some of their other arguments. Everybody is always talking about America has to pay for slavery. When did slavery start in America?
Was it in the 1600s?
1619. Yeah.
1619 is when America started. 1619, right?
Yep, correct. Yep.
When did what we call the United States come into existence?
1776.
76.
A
Okay,
century
so you
and
saying
40
so?
years.
Hold on. So from 1619 to 1776, what we know as America wasn't America. So who's responsible for the Africans and the slaves who are here in the United States from 1619 to 1776?
Those who established the colonies.
But it's not America though, right? It's not the USA, right?
But the people who landed here to establish the,
Oh no,
the colonies.
because the African nations don't exist anymore. So if the African nations don't exist anymore, you can't tell me that they're the people who the nations that currently exist are responsible for what those African nations did. That's according to the pro-black logic over here. So let's go back to it again. Where my pro-black? Where y'all at? Come on back in. Y'all always saying America needs to pay the debt. Well, slavery started in America in 1619. Slavery ended in America didn't come into what it is until 1776. Now, when did America outlaw the transatlantic slave trade?
1808 to 1808.
1808. So give me from 1776 to 1808 is when America is responsible for the enslavement of Africans coming from Africa then, right? How many years is that? How many years?
32.
132.
No,
Yeah,
1776 to 1808.
Yeah, that's 32.
So basically, under this this logic of these people on your page, America's only responsible for 32 years of slavery. You hear me, Chaos Rain?
Yes.
Because see, America didn't exist before 1776. It was a colony of Great Britain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Great Britain didn't exist because the Great Britain that we have now is a republic, not an aristocracy. It is a republic, not a kingdom. And so therefore, we can't even collect from 1776 to 1619 because what the power authority that ruled America don't exist no more according to them. Did you ask them that question?
No, I never asked that question because I was still waiting for the answer.
No, brother, no, you need to ask them that question. Say, okay, what part of responsibility does America have for their part of the slave trade? Okay. If it just came about in 1776 and it outlawed slavery in 1808, how do we hold them responsible for all that, the damn near 150 years before it was even a country? That's Great Britain's problem. But the king ain't the king no more.
Yeah.
Okay, Dale. So what are your thoughts on that, man? See, this is
But doesn't that allude to my point that that alludes to my point that the people who established those colonies need to be held accountable?
Okay, well, let's hold Great Britain. Let's hold the King of England responsible, and the King of England say we don't exist no more. You can't hold us. It's parliamentary system now.
Right.
This is the argument that these people have. Now, there's a simple. I'm trying to tell y'all, man, you need to stop taking advice from people who are counting on the fact that you don't read. These people, I'm telling you, man, these black powerites, they're truly supremacists. They think you're stupid. If you would just look at basic American history, you would see America only came into existence in 1776. All right, which means that if this republic didn't exist before that, they're not responsible for anything that this form of government wasn't in charge of. So that means from 1776 to 1808, that's the only time it was legal. So America is only responsible for 32 years of slavery. Out of the 400 some odd years we've been here, they're only responsible for 32 years. That's the logic they want you to follow. Superimpose that logic on Africa and see if you can find a way to get around it. I have. Go ahead, Dale. What are your thoughts?
I'm just waiting for Dr. Umar Johnson to call in. See, that's not the point, brother. That's not the point, brother. That's not the point, brother. As we look through the African diaspora, my brother, my sisters, he's lying to you. Let me tell you what's going on. We as a people, because as Marcus Messiah Garvey, my cousin said, that's all I hear is that they keep throwing this rhetoric out. It's just like it's kind of like, I hate to say this, sounds bad, but you know, fuck it. Excuse me.
Yeah.
It's like talking to a woman saying, well, you know, last night you said you went to the club with your girlfriends, but my homeboy that runs the hotel over downtown at the Four Seasons said you came in there and you had lunch with some guy and you went upstairs to the 15th floor. Well, why are you checking up on me? So it's diversion. Here's the fact of the matter. You put the facts laid out, and what happens in our community, because people aren't educated, and we have these egos that have made millions of dollars on our ignorance in our community and sold us a bill of goods and go kissing the Democratic parties behind or trying to kiss the Republican parties behind, instead of just saying, what's the fact? The fact is we are the only major group in the world in the last half millennia that has been done as we've been done. And every time we talk about getting paid back, nobody wants to have that discussion.
Yeah, they're not going to pay you back if they got to make the deal. But I'm telling you, there's enough politicians who will sign a piece of paper and say, yeah, y'all go sue Africa if you want your money. We don't have a problem with that. There's nothing but an upside for Black Americans.
Yep.
There's nothing but an upside for America for them to give us carte blanche to go sue Africa. That means more money to the American economy.
Yep.
We get to tie Africa up and take their resources and take their wealth. We're not asking for reparations. At this point, when y'all send y'all oil over here to South Texas to get refined,
we're going to need a piece of that.
And when you send the money to make the payment for the oil to get refined, and when the oil is finished being refined, we seize all of that up out of Chase Bank and Bank of America and all that. When you take your money and you put it in these banks over in England and these other European banks, we take that federal court Article 3 judgment from a federal court and we take it over there and we have it honored and registered in the courts of England. And we say, now we need our $100 billion for the Smith Jenkins family. You see what I'm saying? It's not hard. It can be done. I know Josh was in here for a minute, but I want to get Chaos Rain in here because he literally hosted a show and I had all these detractors over there, but they're not coming here. I'm gonna ask some simple questions. I wanna hear your response to it. Chaos Rain, what other questions did they say, man? What other questions did they have?
It was like over a week and a half ago, maybe.
What other questions did they have?
No, that was
what was their opposition? Go ahead.
Their opposition is that what you saying or what you presented is crazy. Africa don't got the money. They're not gonna give Black people America money. That's their conclusion. Even to the ones that are, few of them are Black, some are pro-Black, that were on that panel saying that what you present was crazy. And they're right.
I know, but what's crazy about it? I mean, what is crazy? But you know what's crazy? Trying to get $1 trillion out of the American government. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You claiming reparations and you're not gonna get. I mean, you're not gonna. I'm gonna tell you now. It's gonna be a bunch of no judges and no people on the jury. You're gonna get nothing because you're trying to convince the American government to allow you to pilfer their coffers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think I'm going to let Dale Jenkins come in here and take my money? He going to convince me to give him $100 that my great granddaddy said that he was going to pay him because he took his goat or his cow? Hell no.
Yeah.
I'm going to find every reason to get the case dismissed and I'm going to foreclose on it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You understand?
I agree. I definitely agree. And I did send the link.
But who are these people? Where did they get their law degrees from? I know it was one dude who was
one was a lawyer. I'm not sure
what was his argument? Let's hear what the lawyer said. What is his argument?
I can't recall. I gotta play it.
Let me tell you what his argument was. His argument was this is a tort. Dennis knows that there are some superseding factors. I heard him. I heard a little bit of it.
Okay.
And it just sounds like he's not a very good lawyer. If you can't figure out basic first year law school causes of actions.
Okay.
It's not a tort.
Mm-hmm.
We're not suing somebody for battery. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
You guys gotta watch. Let me tell you again, you gotta watch. There's a lot of shysters and hooligans and fools in Black America. And just because they got a computer and a light and a camera and they get on the internet, they're not qualified to have this conversation. They're not, let me say that again. everybody talking about reparations is not qualified to have that conversation. Now, see, I can explain things to people, but it's not my job to make them understand. You see? Now, let me tell y'all what I'm doing again. Shout out to my man, Wrench Turner. He'll understand this because it's the Texas way. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. There's nothing you can do about it to stop me from doing what I'm going to do. At this point, I'm using my own money to finance the legal writings and have them published in different places where lawyers look up stuff. You see? Oh, that's a great goddamn idea. You see? And there's nothing you can do about it. See, I don't need a GoFundMe. I'm not trying to build a goddamn school. When I wanted to put on my own TV show, I spent $250,000 of my own money to do it. You understand who you're dealing with? I'm not like y'all. See, I'm not about all that talk. I'm about getting it done. I don't need your help like that. We're going to do it my way. Again, this ain't the village groupthink. That didn't work. Did groupthink and village think work for Africans? Has it stopped them from getting invaded by people who are all about I?
Nope.
I'm not about the team spirit. I'm about the M-E in team, me. You understand that? I don't need your help. Didn't ask for your help. Don't want your opinions. And there's nothing you can do to stop me. I'm sponsoring legal writings. I'm sponsoring people to draft and publish articles about reparations and why Africans must pay foundational Black Americans for their part in the slave trade, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's going to happen. Now, we got a lot of cowards in this generation and a lot of people who still romanticize Africa, and you might not do it, but it's going to be out there for the next generation. You see? And there's nothing you can do about it. That's what I'm trying to explain to these people. So anyway, go. Who else? Josh, go ahead, man. I know you've been patient. What are your thoughts on this, man? Go ahead. You got to unmute, brother. Unmute. Let me see what. Unmute yourself. Uh-oh. Yeah, come on in. Come back in. Dale, Glow, Chaos. Floor is open. Talk to me.
I'd like to.
How about now?
Oh yeah, okay. I got you, Josh. Go ahead. What would you like to add?
When you're an outcast, even your own don't want you, the realest obligation you have to yourself is to go out and make something new, become better than the pieces that made you. No matter where you go, be the difference that everyone assumes that you're not. I'm saying this not just to everyone here, but I'm saying it to those who are watching. It hurts when you're not wanted.
Yeah, so you Africans.
What's better?
Yeah, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
But what's better is when you become something more, because there are a lot of people who are going to be watching us. So be everything you can be under the Most High's guidelines.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that's a good
That's who
statement
we
there. I appreciate that. Let's go ahead and get somebody. You want to kind of stay on point with this thing. Dale, what else would you like to add to the specific argument? What else can we add? What have you learned from this broadcast about true African history? Okay, now somebody look, we got Colder Drone in here. You got a cam up. I'm letting Chaos Reign not show his face because I already know who he is. But Calderon, you got a cam up if you want to come in. I don't really do the uncam stuff. But go ahead, Dale. What were you gonna add?
No, I'm just saying. I told you, like I said when I posted on the YouTube chat, I started studying what we call Black history, African history. I went through every iteration from being a kid that was born in the early 70s until now, just studying stuff. And there's stuff every so-called Juneteenth, Black History time in February. There's at least 2 or 3 things that somebody posts somewhere or some YouTube story that we never see. And the question keeps coming out is you keep seeing these atrocities. where is it the opportunity for us to get out from under these damn politicians who've been bought out and taking checks from the media groups and placate to different people? Like, when is it time for us to turn? And it's funny, the brother Josh made an excellent point, because when I was in college, I'll never forget when, you know, the brothers from Senegal and Nigeria and Benin and, you know, all the Western African countries, and then Ethiopians would come in. We all worked at the same building on the student union, and they just kind of look down on us as African Americans. And they'd say, "Oh, you guys are lazy." And then all of a sudden, when they see my picture up, because I got an internship at GE, it's like now they come knocking me, "Hey, Dale, how do I get at GE, or how do I get on that program you're on?" Then when I get out of school, it's like, "Hey, I saw that you were doing some good stuff. How can I come work over there?" And it's just like, why the hell are you asking me now when your ass was so absent when I'm asking you for it?
No,
I said,
you know. No, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
no, and I was going to say, what I found ironic is the Asian kids from Korea, you know, Thailand, and some of the Latin American kids never had a problem sharing work if they saw that you were working hard and that you can contribute to the group. But my African brothers and sisters, I could tell you for a fact, if I knew how to, when I got better at studying and getting the tools from the professors, then they want to be my best friend. But before then, they never offered anything. And now it's just sad that they have to see us be successful, then say, "Oh, well, you're different."
No, I got more to the point of that, but you know, I find it interesting that it wasn't until after Black Americans became safe, we made this land safe for people of color, specifically other Africans. That's when Africans began to come to this country and basically take what little set asides that we had fought for. Go check out the go look at the Howard University Medical Center currently enrollment, all African names at the end. And see, here's what you got to understand. It was never thought that we would be able to, our first generation Africans would enter into an Ivy League setting and be able to compete with those white kids who had been there for generations, because they grew up around folks who basically spoke broken English. But over the generations, you went to Harvard, your son went to Harvard, your daughter went to Harvard. After a while, we'd be able to catch up. Yeah, the first couple of generations might be won't be as quick. You see what I mean? To pick up the information. But over time, we would have caught up with them. But now you got all these Africans and all these other people of color who came over and took our spots. So they just basically got in the way of our evolution. We're not supposed to be able to just jump in from your family was picking cotton and you just supposed to come in and be able to keep up with somebody whose dad was a senator and mom and grandfather was a multimillionaire business owner.
Right. Now you're black.
Y'all got in our way. When y'all came in and took our positions that was set aside for us to help build us up over time, it got in the way. You basically interfere with our progress. This is a gradual generational thing. 4 or 5 generations down the road, had you had consistent college enrollment in these elite level colleges, we would have been where we supposed to be. But guess what? After that first generation, you got all these Africans coming over here. Second generation, you got all these Africans coming over here, taking our spot. This after you sold us into slavery.
Yep.
This after you profited from selling us into slavery, and you know about it.
And then let us go into the plantation and recycle as poor sharecroppers. Where you
but no, I'm talking about the Africans. You sold us into slavery. You know what we've been dealing with over here for the past 100 years. And instead of coming over here to help us, you send the elite of the elite to Africa, who are probably themselves descended from the same chiefs who profited from selling us into slavery, to come take our little spots.
Right. You lazy American. You lazy.
Yeah. So,
question.
Go ahead, Cal. Go ahead.
Because now, when I look at pro-black as it stands today, and the dudes
let me do this before you ask this question. If you all are enjoying this conversation, if you think you've learned something, and I know y'all have learned something. I know you have. You ain't never heard nobody talk about reparations like this. I know you haven't.
Yeah,
you've heard a bunch of historians. You've heard a bunch of psychologists. You've heard a bunch. Yeah, brother. You ain't never heard a lawyer of my caliber. I'm talking Hall of Fame lawyer with 2 law degrees and 24 years of law experience and millions of dollars in judgments and settlements. You've never heard nobody talk like this. I'm literally giving you a game plan and I'm putting my own money behind this. The least you could do is show your appreciation by paying me for my time. You understand me? And I'm not talking about the time and energy it took for me to read all these books. Okay, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about all that time. I'm talking about for this hour, 2 hours I've been on here. Show your appreciation by paying me for my time. So you want everything on the cheap. That's why you've been getting the results you're getting. You want high quality intellectuals. You want people who actually care about you. You want people who are on your side. You got to pay for the time. Don't treat me. Don't treat me like that. You understand what I'm saying? Show me the love that you should show me in the form of paying me for my time that I spend away from my family dealing with this. At the end of the day, I'd like to give reparations, but I don't need it. But you know what? Your children and your grandchildren may need it. And if what we set in motion right now is something that they can pick up. Because see, in 100 years, the Africans are going to be balling. They're going to have the oil, they're going to have the resources, they're going to have the minerals. And you know who's not? African Americans. We're going to be at the bottom of the food chain. Right? We are going to be below. You understand me? And so Africa, as Africa comes up, they have an obligation to take care of Black Americans because they're the reason that we're here in the first place. So y'all make sure y'all pay me for my time. Shout out to Lance Jackson for being the first one up. Y'all
maybe you should do a commercial, Uncle D, for them.
I want to go ahead.
Okay, all right. My question, and I'll probably repeat this in regards to a lot of Black people, especially the ones that pro-Blacks. In your mind, do you think, not believe, but think that they're now gatekeeping a content that really truly, from the information you lay out from not only this live stream but previous live streams, if people go back, they're gatekeeping in hopes that they'll get some of the content in the end? That's why they push back in regards to how you lay out how this would be more and more feasible.
I gotta go. I'm sick.
I want you to restate that question. Anybody else who wants to come in, we got.
I'll say it. That these the ones that's pro-Blacks, they are defending Africa because by defending it, because some of them have gone back there. The
thing about the pro-Blacks is they want you to always be focused on the white man as your number one enemy. You see what I mean? Because they want you to fight the battle against the white man. This white man who is keeping them down. This white man, because at the end of the day, they want to get rid of him so they can take his place. Yeah, white people play a part in the oppression of people of color, but at the end of the day, white people wouldn't be able to do anything if it wasn't for the different people of every nationality who were paid off, Africans, Asians, Arabs included, who didn't let them come in. The whole story of Pocahontas was about a little Native American girl who basically was paid off with love or sex or whatever to be a traitor to her people. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. The reason that white folks have been able to make an inroad is because they've been able to convince people to sell out for the things they have. And here's the cold part about it. The sanitized version of the African slave trade was that, oh yeah, they paid $100 a head. The truth is they traded you for buckets of beer, pots, a horse, some hay, a handshake, a gun, a pistol, whatever it was. You were meaningless to these people. You see what I'm saying? So, go ahead, brother. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that answered my question. And I wish I saw the first book you showed with the picture of Black folks. I think I might have the book that
this one right here.
All right, color font. Okay.
Yeah, it's right here, man. It's all there. This book was just published because remember, the so-called intellectuals didn't want this published. This just got published in 2018. They didn't want to cause problems between Africa and African Americans. Remember, 1827, you got Marcus Garvey. Let's go back to Africa. If you told these African people, them Africans benefited, it's 1827 or 1927. Them Africans sold y'all into slavery, right? And they did it on purpose. And on y'all way out, they cut a bunch of people's heads off that was your family and friends and told you, don't come back. They did that. Y'all wouldn't want to be going back to Africa. They needed you to romanticize Africa. the so-called father of Black history, Booker T. Washington, okay?
Yeah.
He purposely omitted this. He purposely didn't pay this woman her full salary so that she wouldn't finish her work. This was just released in 2018 because the trust that had it, you know, she's like, I'm not gonna do the rest of this work, this time I spent with this Mr. Cujo Lewis, and you not paying me. You see what I'm saying? They purposely undermine these so-called Black elites. The same Black elites that think Black folks are too dumb to govern themselves are the same ones that tell you stuff like, oh yeah, you don't want to give a Black man all that money. You don't know a Black man, what they're gonna do with it. Why do you care?
Yeah, why do you care? I still hate that.
I want to put your money in your pocket. You go do whatever the hell you want to do it.
Yeah.
You can buy land or a Cadillac. I don't give a damn. You can spend it on weed if you want to. It's your money. Yeah. It's like your paycheck. This is back pay. This is restitution. Leave Black. Stop thinking that Black people. Stop treating us like we children. They treat you just like those liberals treat you.
Infantilization.
Liberals don't think that you are grown enough or mature enough to make your own decisions.
Exactly.
That's how these same so-called Black elites treat you. What does that tell you? You see what I'm saying?
The condescending nature of the people who sold us over here in the first place. That's what it
I'm talking about the Black folks right here, right now, that are against you getting cash money in your pocket for reparations.
Because they're getting cash money to keep you stupid
and too immature to do what's in your best interest for your money. That's why any one of them to tell you that. Well, I think we should buy scholarships. I think we should do. You can't give a Black man all that money.
Stupid.
Yep.
These people are telling you that they think less of you. I'm telling you, these so-called pro-Black, any MFer in 2024 that refers to himself as a pro-Black ain't nothing but a white supremacist in blackface because they think they know better than you. They just want to be in charge of you. I preach a freedom doctrine on this page. You are free men. You can come and go as you please. Nobody is to tell you what to do. You have earned your right to be free and an autonomous human being in this country and in this world. You owe nobody anything. The Black man has paid his debt 20 times over to everybody who he might have owed it to. You don't owe nobody nothing, not Black women, not Black children, not the community, not the United States, not Africa, not nobody. Whatever you choose to do after that, understand you do it because of your own free will. You are autonomous. That's what I preach on this page. That's why people don't like what I'm saying. You understand me? And if I'm able, or some lawyers in the future are able to take this work that I'm putting and put together and put money in your pocket, you're free to do with it what you want to. You understand?
But that's why they do it.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
But see, listen, I work for both political parties, so there's certain things I can't say publicly because of whatever. But I could tell you for a fact that I know that certain people have been paid to have a position to keep us coming out to vote. Because if you pay attention to it, you always know it's election cycle because the same 4 or 5 faces show up on CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, counter argument on Fox. And then all of a sudden, after the election's over with and the inaugural ball's done, then they disappear for another 2 years. And it's time for another round of election because they're getting paid to keep. Because the thing is it goes back to what Dr. King said toward the end, which is when he started talking about bringing the United States before the World Court for economic solutions. He says, I did all this stuff for politics. I thought that was the right way to do it. Now I'm convinced that the moderate and liberal wing of the Democratic Party just doesn't give a damn, to paraphrase.
Right. Yeah. Marcus Garvey came to the same conclusion. So did Malcolm X. So did Thurgood Marshall. They all came to the same conclusion. It is the liberal wing of the Democrat Party that takes on a parental role. And that's the same mentality that these so-called pro-Blacks and intellectuals and Pan-Africanists have. They think that you don't know enough to govern yourself. And I'm telling you that you are free men. You are free, autonomous thinking human beings, and you know nothing to anyone. That's what I'm telling you.
You don't have to vote for Joe Biden.
You understand what I'm saying? You do what you want to do. As long as it's legal and it's lawful, you do what you want to do as Black men. And that's what I want. That's what I want you to take away from my page. You are free men. Okay? But Let's get my man Glow up in here, bro. What have you picked up so far? Because I still ain't heard no opera. Where the ops at? Where y'all at? Y'all had a lot to say on the internet.
I'm gonna caveat.
Chaos Rain. Why are they not here tonight?
I have no idea. I sent the link to one of them, but you know, I don't think
where is he at? Come on in here. Let's hear about it. Let's hear your fancy arguments about why I'm crazy and I don't know what I'm talking about. Why don't y'all Google me on Pace and look at all the hundreds of people that I've sued successfully? There's probably not a company in the United States that I haven't successfully sued, got a judgment on settlement from. And you telling me this is a very simple concept. It's not complicated, which means that either the people who are in charge of the reparations movement before are strategically ignorant, or they just didn't want y'all to know, or they just ignoring facts. Let me tell you what's gonna happen. Let's say you want reparations, black folks. Let's listen. Let's think about it hypothetically. You want reparations. Okay, well, who's at fault for your condition and why you here? What's the first thing they're gonna do? Well, clearly, how'd you get here? Well, you came from Africa. Okay, who brought you here? Well, at first it was legal and then it became illegal. Okay, well, there's about 30% of y'all who came here after it was illegal and they have descendants. Oh, wow. So it was illegal for them to, yeah. Well, if it was illegal, how did it happen? Did the white man get off his boat? These sailors, these 12 sailors, right? These 12 sailors on this schooner called the Clotilda, they went up in there with their little muskets and just ran in there and gathered up 150 black folk. They from like New York and New England. Don't know anything about Africa. They just got off their boat, ran up into Africa, and came out with 125 black people. You think that's what happened? No. There was a slave market set up. The king of Dahomey and all these other kings had slave. All you had to do was pull up, baby. It was drive-through slave catching. You understand me? Let me get 4 Negroes, three bad witches, 7 kids, put them on the boat with a bag of French fries and a sack of cotton, and we'll be, well, sir, can you pull up around the front? The babies won't be hatched for another 2 months. We're going to bring it out to your boat, okay? All they did was pull up. This is what they literally had a drive-through for picking up slaves. Hey, what's up? Yeah. Put them in the back. Put them in the back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's it. And the dude over there had an Uber Eats for slaves. Like, yeah, go on over there and get them and bring them back here to Alabama. White folk, they just pulled up. These are pre-existing black-owned businesses. Don't y'all like black-owned businesses? Don't y'all like that? Isn't that what you Negro folk like? Y'all like black-owned. The king of Dahomey had a black-owned business. Selling niggas. That's what he did. That's what he did. Yeah. And y'all like, we just gonna ignore that guy. And we just, okay, let's just get the white man. Well, we gonna ignore that guy though, right? The hell with him. Okay, we don't see. We can't see what he's doing over there. Oh, we gonna look over here. We don't see none of that. That's what you're gonna do? That is intellectually dishonest.
Yes.
That is intellectually dishonest for you ignore the whole slave markets in Africa, which was sanctioned by these African kings, these chiefs. Come on, y'all. Somebody type African king in the chat room. Didn't y'all want to be African kings? This is what the African kings did to y'all. Don't you want to be a chief? The chief was the one that rounded them up and took them to the king and sold them for a goat's head full of beer and a sack of cotton. Okay? And then the king, all right, I'll give you a cut later. This is what you've been romanticizing Africa for all the wrong reasons, fam. We are African descent. We are not African people. We are foundational Black Americans with our own culture. We got under here unlike any other group of people. And y'all need to get that fantasy out of your mind. Get it out of your mind. It would be much easier to talk to a bunch of Black folks who was fresh off the plantation who didn't romanticize Africa than it is to try to deal with some of these Generation X and baby boomer generation, because y'all romanticize Africa for the wrong reason, man. It's told that the French had to come in and shut down the slave trade in Africa. The French came in. This what they did. The French in 1898. The French came in and shut down the white folk. It was the white folk patrolling the west coast of Africa that had to stop the African kings from selling slaves to Brazil. And some of these, and the pirating of slaves back to the United States. This I'm saying, this history is gonna come up. You know what, Judge, we'd like to dismiss this case for failure to bring in a necessary party. Oh, really? Yeah, no. Yeah, they named the white European slave traders and the insurance company, but they forgot to blame the people who actually sold it to them. Y'all named the pimp and y'all named the John and the prostitute and didn't name the pimp, the co-conspirator. This is where it started. You understand? This is the one who stole the merchandise in the first place and then sold the stolen merchandise to somebody who transported the stolen merchandise to somebody in America who bought the stolen merchandise. The whole damn crime wouldn't have happened had they not stolen them in the first place. You understand what I'm saying? Let's not be ignorant people. Let's separate ourselves from our emotions. Stop romanticizing Africans. 6 black women just got murdered in the Gambia over the past 2 years. This is what happened when you take your black asses over there. They treat you like you're a foreigner. You can't keep a goddamn pair of shoes. My brother, come brother, you know you have to get the village to agree with you. Okay, you cannot just come and be the land. The chief have to agree with you. Man, no, brother, no, you are not African. You are American. You are American. But I take your money, my brother. You understand what I'm saying? They don't even treat you like you Africans. You could be black as midnight. If you're American, they're gonna treat you like that. Y'all ain't got to like me, hate me all you goddamn want to. I don't give a damn. Anyway, shout out to Martin Dupree. Here's something to the collection plate of you. I appreciate y'all. And shout out to my man George Cox. Thank you so much. And Randy Irvin. And Cordell Wood, what you got to say, brother? Go ahead, praise God. Go ahead, Dale. Go ahead. I'm sipping out the
I was just thinking about that joke from Paul Mooney when I saw him live when he came here to Atlanta. I still think about he was like, everyone wanted to go back to Africa, and I wanted to know why the hell did y'all come get us?
Yeah.
Hey, somebody get this Either Smooth dude up here, bro.
Oh no, leave him alone. E Smooth, come on up in here. E Smooth.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Then it's probably you got a whole white dude, Professor Mex, and the Rocketeer, your channel with the rich going up against your own people. You're an effing clown. Whitey and the blacks. No, man, no, I am foundational Black American. Africans are not my people. Let me say that again. Africans are not my people. I am FBA. And how do I know Africans are not my people? Because Africans say they're not my people. Challenge me on that. The Africans will tell you that I'm not African. The Africans will tell Dale, Glow, and Chaos Reign that they're not African. I'm playing by the rules that they set. So if you want to be my opposition, well, fuck it. Let's go be ops then. Playboy, that's what we do. You understand? You want to be my opposition, I'm going to help you be my opposition. And excuse my language.
Uncle
Africans have let us know for hundreds of years that we are not Africans. So why are you still calling them your people? Yes, I acknowledge my African roots, but if I was African, the Africans wouldn't be treating us like we're Americans. So stop labeling somebody something that they don't want to be. They don't want to be associated with you like that, not unless they want your money, not unless they trying to come over here and take your little position at the doggone.
Yep, say it again, Uncle D. Say it again, Uncle D.
That's when they become.
Say it again, Uncle D. Unless you give them something that they don't want to deal with you.
So what are you talking about, my people? This is foundational Black Americans. That's my people. Who you talking about? E Smooth the God? You damn demon? That's what you are. A damn lying, foolish demon. Let him stay up in here. Come on up in here and get this smoke.
Uncle D, please let me say this because it be really boiling. It really boils my blood because that not only do they come over here and take our spots, but they also assist the industry in which discredits our image. Like I was reading an article about like
Yeah, you're right about
this
that. Yeah.
this think piece. Like they're coming into academic. You have African women coming in to academic spaces, adopting the liberal ideology that's already permeated in Black American women, and then legitimizing it through academic studies, legitimizing it through academic publications, and we're still over here, you know, kissing the feet of
man.
African king, bro.
If somebody show you who they are, man, you got to believe them, man. Look, I got some African people I love. I got much love on an individual basis. Some Africans that I'm cool with and everything. But as far as my side, I'm foundational Black American. Why? I ain't white. I ain't Mexican. You understand me? I'm definitely not Arab, but Asian. You see what I mean? I'm foundational Black American. And Africans will tell you we not African. We can be of African descent, but you're not an African. You understand me? By what they've established in their parameters, we are not African. So you need to go ahead and do the best, do what's best for your side. Go ahead, Dale.
So on another note, coming from corporate America, you know how you fill out that the census, the Georgia Department of Labor, right? What's fascinating is if you look, there's North African, Middle Eastern. There's the only quote unquote Black or darker skinned African that's pulled out of that census. Everybody else is either Black, Middle Eastern, North African, whatever, India, etc. And so I used to ask buddies of mine who came in from Nigeria, Benin, and come work at our company. I said, so what do you fill out? It's, oh man, since I filled out in high school and college, I have been a white man. I was like, wait, but you're Black. Why don't you put, oh, I'm not a Black American.
They don't want to be like you. They're not you. They're not Black.
Exactly.
They will tell you they're not Black. Why do Black people constantly trying to make Africans be Black? You're not. They're not Black. They don't want to be like you. So what are you going to do about it? You going to try to force something on somebody? They don't want to be like you. You see what I mean? And you need to go ahead and accept it. They just accept that. Just realize that's what it is. As much as you romanticize Africa, that's not where they at with you. Great topic of discussion. I often talk about the topic with other people and point out how many West African nations are complicit in slavery. We need to practice group economics. Martin Dupree, here's something to the collection plate. Thank you so much. Look, I'm working hard. I'm giving you these arguments. I'm making y'all deal with some harsh realities that you don't want to deal with. And maybe it won't work for you. Maybe you're just so, drilled down on your permanently held beliefs that you stuck with it. But there are generations of people who will come behind us and they're going to look at this work that I'm doing. They're going to say, you know, that dude was on to something. And it takes a lot to be able to sit up here and do this and think this and deal with the public. And if you appreciate what I'm doing, not only should you hit the like button and subscribe button, it takes your time to hit the subscribe button, the like button. You should pay me for my time. Chaos Rain, Glow, Dale, who hadn't spoken yet? Go ahead. Let's hear it.
I think Glow spoke.
Go ahead, Dale. What were you gonna say on that? I think you were up next.
No, I think it's my brother chose. I think, or Chaos. Sorry, I think that's he was up.
Go ahead, Chaos. What were you gonna say?
But really, be honest with you, they can come up and have the conversation, but
they're not coming up here, man.
They're not coming up. They're wasting time.
They're not coming up here because if they come up here, they're gonna sit up here and they're gonna like, oh. I mean, just simply asking them the timeline. Okay, so you're saying, and I'm gonna answer this question again. Let me hit y'all again.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a corporation and you take over another corporation, you not only take on that corporation's assets, but you also take on that corporation's debts.
Yep, absolutely.
If the country of England, which was at one point a monarchy, now becomes a republic, and that country had debts and blood and treasure that it had accumulated while it was a monarchy, this republic, under this parliamentarian system, can't just tell these innocent third parties, oh, well, we're a different form of government now. So those debts that we owed you are now, they're no longer valid because we don't, that form of government doesn't exist anymore that governs this land. But the land exists, the resources exist, the same people are there, the same people who came from that lineage are there. What are you talking about? It's not like Martians came down from space and landed in Togo, Benin, and these places. Like, these are whole different people. You the same people.
Yeah.
Man, y'all got the same name. It's the same plot of land. The same land y'all took from us. Because see, these Africans that were brought to this country, we had land over there. We had title over there. So they sold us, incorporate our land. What about that? You understand? And they did it at a time when slavery was illegal. That time, and we're talking about that time period from 1808 to 1860. What about that time period? Okay. But anyway, go ahead, brothers. Who else? Dale?
So one thing I noticed, playing, because I grew up playing for churches and some big churches and got buddies that got some stuff. What I find interesting, and I think this is maybe a little bit off topic, but it's kind of a dotted line. It's just incredible growth and push of Afro beats. You know, Davido and all these other.
Oh, they got money now.
Right. So
they got money, bro. That's what I'm trying to explain to you, baby.
Yeah,
they got money now. They
got good one, Dale. Good one, Dale.
Minerals now. They got technology that done sent their people all around to America and England to get educated. Oh, they gonna be talking big stuff about Black Americans in a minute. They already talking about it. Look, I want you to look. I want you to slow down. I want y'all to hear me real quick. Listen to me. Them Africans can't wait to talk stuff about Black Americans. They've been chomping at the bit to be able to talk about Black Americans. Because, oh yeah, you know what? We are the only Black people that matter now. Look, we have our own. Look at our country. Look how beautiful it is. Lagos and all these. Y'all want to come back here. They're going to be talking about y'all real bad in the next 10, 15 years. When they got the Afro beats, all the champions, all the boxing champions. When we had a Muhammad Ali, guess what? Muhammad Ali embraced Africa. I don't see these Africans from Africa embracing Black America, whether they're MMA champ or a boxing champ. They're not embracing Black America. They quick to tell, even Anthony Joshua, he quick to tell you, no, I'm from my people from Africa. You understand me? They quick to do that. Yeah. This is what's happening. So they see themselves as being on the rise. The whole world is telling them, yeah, Africa's on the rise. Africa's where the minerals are. Africa is going to be where the oil is. You see what I'm saying? And they're going to rise up and they will leave you behind. Unless you come up with a game plan to make sure Africa's rise, you're tied to Africa's rise, then you're going to get left behind, family.
It's infuriating. When I bring these points up, because I went to a PMI, which is a predominantly minority institute, and so there were a lot of international students, and I dealt with like the international students first, and we have like a heavy African student population, and so like when I would bring up topics that are relevant to being compensated properly because this is eventually what the conversation becomes. When I would bring up these topics and add valuable points, they would knock them down, and I'm like, what reference point are you speaking from? Because you weren't here when everything that happened, all the trauma that was inflicted on us occurred. You came here after we, like one of the commenters said, set up stage. And honestly, I think that they're just trying to keep us in a place of inferiority. And not that we're in a place of inferiority, but they're trying to pretty much make it permanent that we because they're already like, we saw them over here. We already think that we're smarter than them in general. So like, also we're gonna play this sight game because that's essentially what they're doing. They know that they sold us over here.
Look, man, let me tell you something. Go get your money. Stop holding back. Let's get together. We got this dude, Donald Trump. Hopefully he wins. He'll sign a piece of legislation like that.
I know.
You understand me?
Because it's about the money for him.
Yeah, look. Let's all get. I don't care where the money comes from. I just want you to get the money in your pocket. I don't care where the money comes from, as long as my foundational Black American people get that infusion of that 100 billion, trillion, whatever it is. I'm sure we got some accountants to calculate that. As long as we get it or get it coming in on a regular basis, I don't care where it comes from. I don't care which one of these defendants pays it. Let's get that legislation in place. Let's draft the legislation that grants African American foundational Black Americans permission to sue the complicit African nations for their violations of the 1808 anti-slavery treaty. And if you can trace your history back, like these people in the Clotilda case, to an African nation, to a specific act, then by God, you should be able to sue.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a first step in a long journey, but we need to be made whole again. And the facts are all there. It's not, look, the thing about these Europeans, these white folks, they kept great records. They might have burned some records, but the records are there. If you're willing to look, the records are there. And if it's worth it to you, it's worth it. Now, what'll end up happening, if you get enough people with valid claims, you get something like a class action suit pending. And now what has to happen, just like the asbestos cases, they got to set up a trust. Yep. So you name all these different nations and say, okay, here's what's going to happen. Africa on the rise. Over the next 50, 100 years, y'all need to put $1 trillion in this account. If you don't, we're going to start taking y'all oil. We're going to start seizing y'all's bank accounts. That's the alternative. Either you're going to pay it to us, you're going to dole it out in increments, you're going to pay us just like they made Haiti pay. You see Haiti got to pay France 100 years later. They need to pay us for their part. Now, at some point, hey, they might say, well, we want to sue these Europeans who play their part. Well, y'all work that out. Y'all go, you African countries with y'all millions of African on the rise dollars and money. You go sue Europe and all these insurance companies. We gonna sue y'all because at the end of the day, you're the one that sold us to these people. Had it not been for you capturing us off our land and selling us, we wouldn't be in the first place. Ain't no white man gonna run off no boat and catch me. I'm sure my ancestors running a 4-2 flat, baby. 4-2 flat.
6-6
we up there with the cheetahs. You're not gonna catch us. It was other Africans that caught us. You understand what I'm saying? So I want y'all to begin to fix your minds on no longer begging for reparations. Fix your minds on taking what is owed to you using the American legal system, because everybody has money over here. Everybody has wealth over here. Bank account, oil, everything. And if it's not here in the United States, it's in one of these European countries. Those African generals and the world, they not keeping their money in no doggone African banks.
No.
I bet you that's for sure. So you know where it is. It's going to be in some European bank or some American bank. So why not? What's the problem? Man up. You got to do what you got to do. Some of you guys have been to war before. Let me get this straight. You done shot people of color and brown people and black people for the United States military, but you're afraid to take their money because you love them. Think about that. I want y'all to process that. Y'all quick to shoot each other up to Chicago. Where's Chicago at? Y'all blow your brother head off, but now you tell them you don't want to take these African money for the debt that they owe you. Shout out to the people in LA, North Side, South Side, Houston. Y'all be fighting and fussing on. Let's get this money, baby. It's a quick, easy route. It's just, look, the stuff will be published this year. It's going to be out there, these news articles, these legal articles. I'm not asking for nobody's help. I don't care what you say. You see what I mean? It really don't matter to me what everybody else is doing. This is a one-man show. You understand what I'm saying? And I know that don't hit right to a lot of black people. A lot of black people overvalue their opinion. I don't care about your opinion. I ain't never needed nobody else's opinion. That's what makes me American. You understand what I'm saying? That's that. You know, these barons that we have, these oil barons and tycoon, they don't care about nobody's opinion. I'll pay you to do what I say do. If it don't work, we'll try something else. But I don't see why this avenue ain't a viable avenue to get us to where we going. But let's go ahead and anybody else got something to say, man? Chaos Reign, your people ain't showed up, bro. Where they at?
I have no idea, Uncle D. I have no idea.
Tell them the reason that show that you had only got like 10, 20 viewers is because the people that would have viewed it realize they don't know what they're talking about. Now, this show that we're gonna have about 8,000, 9,000 people look at it because they're like, damn, maybe it's something there. You see what I mean? All I'm trying to do is spark the interest and get everybody on the right page. Glow Hardy, go ahead, bro. Talk to me.
Uncle D, did you talk about the tribes of not the tribes but the black people that was selling us here once we got to land and like they own? You did talk about that.
Oh, well, I hinted on that a little bit. I'm working on this book right now, man. I try to on my Sunday afternoon walks. I'll try to read like 40 or 50 pages. But this is the black slave owners and free black slave masters in South Carolina from 1790 to 1860. So yeah, black people own other black people. So when you start talking about slavery, when you start talking about who benefited from slavery, what I'm beginning to understand is that becoming a slave owner was like the American dream.
Yes.
No, I want y'all to hear me on this. Look, I want you to hear me. As I read this book, you had black people who, once they became free, what they want to do is go get some slaves for themselves. And it wasn't just relatives. They was like, this one dude, he was a blacksmith. And he went and he got him another slave and taught him to be a blacksmith so he could sit up and chill. You understand? Yeah. So being a slave owner back then, I was like, this life is good.
Yeah.
You see? So this is what y'all understand. We looking back at slavery. Oh my God, what a horrible thing. That's like us looking back at caveman to how did they hit them women upside the head with them bats and drag them back? That was what they did back then. Mm-hmm. It was the thing. It's like us looking at I don't know, it's all kind of atrocious stuff that we do. But it's like you trying to place your modern day judgments on these people who lived in a different time when things were brutal. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it's just a different time period, man. It's just a whole different time period. It's a different value system, and it is what it is. But yeah, when I finish talking about this, 2/3 of the people who own slaves in South Carolina were women in this country.
And it goes back. It all connects. They
got it from bed winching and having masters' babies. This is where they got it from.
It all connects. Like it goes back into like talking about feminism and women's suffrage.
How do we sue the white people who own slaves in this country and not sue the black people who own slaves in this country? And more likely than not, fam, I want you to hear me. More likely than not, each and every one of you black folks that are watching this broadcast right now have a slave owner who was black in your family line. Let me say that again. Each one of you black folks who are watching this broadcast right now have a black person who was a slave owner. Now, some of y'all gonna say, well, they was just buying their cousin and their mom and them. You can't tell from the census.
Yep.
Who bought who for what? So what it looked like is the great grandmammy was a slave owner. That's what it looked like. And so you're gonna automatically be eliminated from the reparations get paid fund because your people was a slave owner. Now, how do we get around that? Well, let's sue them people in Africa. We'll just sue them at the source. We'll get the money over here and sort it out later on once we get the money over. You understand what I'm saying? Is it starting to make sense now?
It makes perfect sense to me.
Because what else?
I'll be getting tired of people
reparations.
I'm getting tired of people.
Eliminate. Listen to me. Strategically speaking, everybody that you cannot eliminate ahead of time from getting from getting reparations are gonna line up for a check. Yes, my brother, how are you today? Yeah, I have suffered so much racism since my family came here from Nigeria in 1985. And because of this, I think that I should get all them scammers, damn Nigerian scammer, they're gonna get all the money. A white woman, I'm 1/8 black.
Yep.
Karen, you don't get yourself down. Karen is gonna take that she's gonna take that little pink toe and put it over the front of the line. You know the little line that when you in line at the airport, she gonna put that foot. Let me tell you what you're gonna put that foot over and get in front of all you black folks. Talk about my ancestry.com says that I am 2.3% sub-Saharan African, and so that entitles me to at least, I think, 1 million. It's only fair. Who's to say how black I am? You know, the one drop rule says what? You know, one drop of black. So I should be entitled to the same amount. They gonna get all the money.
God.
So what do? You eliminate that ahead of time. We eliminate by saying, look, by holding the Africans responsible and making them culpable, now the Africans can't line up and get the reparations money. The white folks can't line up and get the reparations money unless they can trace their ancestry back to this time, but they can't do it. The Mexicans can't do it. The Native Americans, well, what about us? We have been oppressed by the white man. Yeah, but you was not sold by this African king. Did you Native Americans go to Africa and then get sold and sent back here? No. So it's only the people who were captured and sold and sent over here who could trace their root. I'm telling you, you guys got to think like a lawyer to figure this out. I'm just saying, man.
I just don't. When you see, and then they minimize the fact that there were black slave owners in the U.S. by saying that, well, there wasn't as many black slave owners as there were black slaves. I was like, bro, like you still had a group of people within your own nation.
There wasn't as many black people as there was white people over here. So that makes sense, right? But percentage-wise, it was damn close. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, bro, hey, look, man, I'm not. I can explain it to you. I can't make you understand. Okay, let me tell y'all again. All you folk who got a problem with this plan, it's not for you to understand. It's just not. Okay. And the other thing is, I'm not asking for your help. So what you got to say to me? Nothing. You're going to take it and like it or not like it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And see, black folks are not used to black men like me. They just not. They are not used to black men who are not begging and pleading and asking for approval. When have I on this page ever begged and pleaded and asked for y'all damn approval?
No, I rock with you, Uncle D. For real.
And we needed about 1 million more black men just like me, and things would change. Stop asking for people's approval. And stop asking for their forgiveness either. I did it. It worked. Now you can either reap the benefit of it or go on about your business. Go ahead, Dale, brother. Brother Dale been with me the longest on this page tonight, this long, protracted broadcast. No. Hallelujah. Go ahead.
Man, you kill me with the African accent. I'm just.
What's that? You mean my brother? Hello, hey.
I am saying this. Just a minute. I am saying to you, I have a song coming out. I'm going to take the money as a black man when we get the reparations for us, and I'm going to have a cell phone program for all of the black people around the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got all the accents, baby.
I'm going to have 300 million cell phones, and I'm going to sell half of them to white women in Great Britain.
You know, you sound like a very English-based Nigerian on that one, brother. You got to work better. Hey, you got the hey. It comes from the gut.
She has to be. Okay. She has to be at least 400 pounds.
Mm-hmm. You got to work better, but you know, like I do a lot of accents and stuff like because I travel a lot. I listen to people. I listen.
Oh, no, and when you listen to people, I can do the real one. I'm just being nice tonight.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Yeah, I got people thinking I'm Dominican because I be doing that. Well, to get away, you know, I know how to do that too. You know what I'm saying? I think people are funny. I listen to people. Yep. And I don't just listen to their words. I try to understand their culture and why they say what they say. Yep. But anyway, Chaos, what else you want to say, man?
No, man, I think I exhausted us enough, you know.
Yeah, you go tell your little friends, tell your little ugly friends, a little silly, unprepared friend. Like this is not, they're not meant to understand it. And see if they understood it, they'd have came up with the idea.
Hey, Anthony Nelson, he disagreeing with you,
Where you at? Come on in, baby. Where's Anthony? I don't see nobody named Anthony. Come on in. Where you at?
He said Africa should not. We have a whole continent enough for everyone.
Tell him to come on in. I want y'all be respectful. What's his name? Where's that? Anthony. Africa should not. We have a whole continent enough for everyone. But we don't want to come back there, Anthony. Y'all gonna sell us again. Y'all just gonna sell us east next time. Next time the Chinese are gonna own us. Why would we trust you to come back there? And y'all haven't compensated for your first transgression. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We got African Americans going to the continent right now. Did y'all not just see the broadcast I did a couple of weeks ago where I talked about how 6 African-American women were unalived by their so-called Gambian husbands, and the Gambian husbands are living in the house right now? Did y'all not see
Chile.
that? Why would we come back over there for that? Huh? Why would we come back over there for that? This is how y'all treat us. See, I'm not going by, you tell me that we're not African, so I'm just playing by the rules that you gave us, fam. But come on up in here. I got my brother down. His name is Calderon. Bro, you got to put a shirt on and sit up. You ain't coming in here with the shirt off. And
come on, man. It's gotta be professional, man.
Your taco meat, you ain't coming in here, Calderon.
Goddamn, man.
Down and sleep and shit. I see you. I've been there about 15 minutes. I see you, but you're not coming in here. Put a shirt on, sit up straight. And I'm not playing. I got to go. I'm not about to sit up here all night with this shit. God bless y'all. This is Uncle D. I love you guys. Shout out to Dale Jenkins. Shout out to Glow Hardy, Chaos Rain.
Thank you, man.
Anybody that has a problem with this argument, okay, ask them. Well, why do you have a problem with us getting our money from these African countries? What is the problem? If it's largely based, I don't have it. They don't have it. It's not good enough. The countries didn't exist at the time. It's not good enough. The African kings didn't know what they're doing. Is not good enough. I've dispelled all that. What are the other excuses they use? We don't want to create divisiveness. You're already divided by a whole Atlantic Ocean, 500 years in the culture. You see what I mean? They are our brothers. Well, they don't think they're your brothers. They don't even think y'all the same people. So what other than these emotionally based arguments do they have? Do you want your money or not? You understand what I'm saying? If you want your money, nobody's going to give it to you. The U.S. government is going to fight you for another 600 years before you get it. So let's go ahead and take it from some people that we know owe us. That'll be basically the U.S. government will line them up for us. Yo, yeah, here, go get them. They'll line them up for us. You see what I mean? Why not? Do you want your money or not? Calderon, glad you put your shirt on. I'm gonna let you go ahead and say something. Go ahead. What you got to say about this subject?
Yeah, what's up, everybody?
Good, brother.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're fine. Praise God.
Yeah, I was just listening to you about African reparation, and I think you should sue the African government, corrupt African government that are the descent of the all African king, the slave that sold your people, and you should sue them. You understand? And I was born in Europe. I'm from African parentage, and I think that you should not give up suing all the African government. I'm based in England, by the way.
Yeah. I'm glad you understand. There's a look, see, and we can still be friends. Just let me get my money. You understand what I'm talking about? Like I don't take this personally. It's not personal. It's like you owe a debt. You see us over here struggling. You done had all this time to try to make the thing right. You see us getting shot by the police, and you can't get jobs. And every time something goes bad in America, we get blamed. Y'all don't want us back over there. I want all 40 million of you black folks to get on the love boat in your designated city and try to float back to Africa and see if they don't. No, my brother, you cannot come here. You got to go back to Compton, go back where you belong. They don't want you over there. So the least they can do is pay us. You see what I'm saying? At least give us our money. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
give
sir.
Us our money and look, we're gonna be fine. You give us our money, we'll be fine. You infuse $1 trillion into the black community over the next 50 or 100 years, we will be fine. You understand me? Because most of our problems are poverty problems. Most of our problems are we have been pushed down instead of helped up. White Americans are helped up. Latin Americans, look at the migrants coming over here. Yeah, you go now. You get 9,000, and you get 9,000. You get an apartment. Here's a little scooter bike for you, Paco. Here you go. Come on over. Have a baby. You can stay. We get pushed down. So let's get our come up. You see what I'm saying? So thank you so much, Calder. I appreciate that, man. I thank you so much, bro. And look, it's the right thing to do. And anybody who is the other thing you got to understand. I'm gonna say this. Some people just don't like ideas because they didn't come up with them. Just keep that in mind. Some people they got a problem with an idea because they didn't come up with it. And they don't want to, and you know, remember the so-called the wokey wokes, the black powerites, the Afro dreadlock people, they've had a rock on this reparations thing for like 50 years. This has been the threshold of the woke side of Black America. You know, the incense burning, Egyptian musk smelling, check all your chakras and make sure they're aligned in the morning, people. And now that you got some business people and some lawyers involved in them to say, look, y'all been going about this the wrong way. You can't pray to all your African deities to get this money. They don't want you to have it. You're going to have to go to the American government, get some Congress and some president to enact a law giving us permission the same way they did. They gave the Saudi Arabian family of the 9/11 victims of to sue the Saudi government. That's all we need. And now we got a green light. Once I put these publications out here, once I put these articles, these law review articles out here, word will quickly get around. And the one thing I know about American justice, the one thing I know about American lawyers is that they're like sharks in the water. And if they see a deep pockets, they're willing to spend $4 or $5 million to get $100 billion. And you got lawsuit after lawsuit. And once we start setting precedent, that's really all that matters. Precedent is just a little foothold. And even if you suffer a setback, 10, 11 years later, somebody else might come along and say, well, hey, let's do it like this. The judges change, the benches change, you get a different ruling. We just need to set some precedent and get some legal framework so that we can begin to get compensated before we as African Americans disappear. Because we ain't got but about another 3 or 4 decades left before we're so diluted and so disjuncted. There's really nothing called African American anymore. Go ahead, Calderon.
Please give me a favor. Stop calling yourself African American. You're Black American. You're not African American.
Well, we call ourselves foundational Black Americans, but for the purpose of this conversation, you know, people understand what I'm saying. You see what I mean? Yeah. But like you hear what the brother said, we're not African Americans. See? And that's the African brother telling you we ain't African. We Black, but we ain't African. So
yeah, exactly. Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
About the reparation, how can you tell an American who's proper Black American like you guys and an African that try to pass off as a Black American for getting reparation? How are you going to deal with that?
Well, they got, you know, birth certificates, census records that go back to 1860, lots of stuff like that. We got census records that go back to 1860. That's where I got my own family stuff. And let me show you something. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I mean, here's the bill of sale for my people. This is my grandmother's father right here. And if you look into the records, if I look in the census records, and this is in Casilla, Mississippi, you understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
This is a bill of sale. This is a replica of a bill of sale for my people. A.L. Pressgrove, he actually owned one of the plantations that my grandmother grew up on. You see what I'm saying? So we have records. And if you come over here and you're an African who comes to the United States, you're not gonna have that sort of, you're not gonna have that birth certificate and whatnot and the records that go back. So yeah, it's not we can do it. We can do whatever we want to do in America. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, because
that's the other thing I need you guys to understand.
Hey, look, Uncle D, I'm in the chat. You know, I'm a moderator. This female, she talking about some, you're not African, but you want Africa's money. Are you not Native Americans? You all sold us over here.
No,
so the whole conversation is about reparations.
You're right. We are not Africans because you say we're not Africans. And that's why we ready to sue you now and get our money. When we were brothers, we wouldn't sue you. But now
that part.
We have become so un-African that we are Americans, and now we ready to sue you. You see what I'm saying? You say you're not African, but you want African money. Yeah, we haven't been African since 1619, baby. You see? But just because we're not African doesn't mean, and you sold us away from our Africanness and our African heritage, that don't mean you still owe the debt. You got to pay me. Somebody type pay me in the chat room. Why they keep getting me riled up when I'm trying to live? Somebody type pay me in the chat room. Somebody type, show me, what is it? Show me the money.
Show me the
where's
money.
that at? Pay me. Well, why they don't come up in here?
Pay how you weigh, baby. Pay how you weigh.
Why y'all don't come up in here? The link is in the chat room. Why y'all don't come up in here and talk to me, man? You ain't got to chop it up in the back alley.
They're intimidated. They don't want to have the conversation. They don't want to have a genuine conversation about this.
They don't want to. They can't join in yet because they got the turkey and the mashed potatoes cooking. You know, Big Shirley got to get the green beans, potatoes, ham, and
she got cornbread,
skin in that. The hot water cornbread ran out of oil. Had to go out to Publix to get that. And you know her good slides is busted.
Yeah, and let me run that back. I want y'all to understand something. Even if we wasn't African, we still gonna take the money. That's what we do as Americans. See, here's what I want y'all to understand. I am a fully realized American. You understand? We believe in might. Might equals right. The world belongs to whoever is strong enough to take it. This is
my God. Here we go with the Moorish shit. Here we go with the Moorish bullshit, the Moorish history bullshit. All these 5%er, this.
This is who's been in charge of the reparations argument, and that's why y'all haven't made any progress. I'm not gonna sit up here and learn the entire Moorish history. What we gonna do is quickly we're gonna get these articles printed and get the legal foundation and framework, and we're gonna see if we can create a political climate to get a slight change in the law, similar to what happened in the Saudi Arabian lawsuits on behalf of the 9/11 victim, and then we're gonna see if we can proceed forward. I'm not going through all that, bro. See, all of that is just a time waster. These are people who don't actually want to do anything. They want to tell you what to do. Let me tell you what's gonna happen. The minute let's say you were able to learn the entirety of the Moorish history. Then they're gonna say, well, now you got to understand how many people live on the moon right now. They're gonna constantly change.
No. First of all, the moon is not real. You understand? It's a flat Earth.
Then they're gonna tell you the moon is not real and the Earth is flat. Right. You have got to. They constantly change. Look, I'm a businessman. I'm a lawyer. Let's get straight to the point. Let's deal with what we got to deal with. I'm not gonna do all that. That's just crazy. But again, these type of people want to tell you what to do. You understand? You can't have this unless you count all the dots on the roof. Just to see if you do it. They want to have control. I want you guys to understand. They're so used to treating black people like we are enslaved people. They'll see people right now to tell you still a slave. You know you're a slave. You sitting in the first class of the goddamn JetBlue, and they tell you still a slave. You sipping goddamn drinks with your pinky up like that, and they telling you a slave. Got a white woman serving you peanuts and rubbing your balls, and they telling you.
I was about to.
You see what I'm saying? That's what I want to understand. I mean, I'm just looking. If you believe it, if you're foolish enough to believe these people, you can leave this country right now and go move to the farthest part of the earth and live in a cave if you want to. And they say, "Oh no, you trapped in America. You a slave." No, I could go live in a tree in a jungle in South Vietnam if I wanted to, and nobody would bother me. Hey, you're not those
Uncle
people.
D.
But go ahead, man. Go ahead. Somebody say I'm wild and praise God.
No.
Uncle
D.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here, baby. I'm listening.
Yeah, are you the guy that was talking about Big Mama? Big Mama is dead. Are you?
I am saying that black men do not have the reverence. Yes, that's what I meant. Black men do not have the reverence and respect for black women that they once did. Those women that we revered and loved are no longer here. We got a bunch of twerkers and goddamn weed smokers. And what's that? Vape smokers. That's what we got, a bunch of twerkers and vape smokers out there. We don't revere these women like we once did. And that's why brothers are like, well, I don't even respect you like that. Why would I care if you're trying to shame me into voting for one party or another? Yeah. And it's a good thing. Go ahead.
I was listening to your podcast. I mean, that was yesterday, and it was pretty long, but very interesting. I learned a lot from what you were saying. It was very good, very, very good, sir. Respect.
Thank you so much, bro. I preach all praises to the Most High. If black men would begin to actually speak the truth, we'd have a lot more understanding. And now that you're out from under the thumb of the matriarchy, you should begin to speak the truth. Black women will respect you more if you spoke the truth. if some of you brothers began to say no and hell no in front of some of them no's and start telling them and the rest of the world what you are and aren't going to do, you get a lot more respect. But as long as you wishy-washy and you simping and, oh my God, I heard something the other day, man. I was watching Umar Johnson, bless his heart. And he said he was talking to two brothers who had married, ended up with some white women or something like that. And he was like, yeah, something about your money. Your money is going back to the white woman. He said, well, the brother was like, but I got black kids by my white wife. They're actually going to go to the children. Well, doesn't your wife sit down and tell you, don't you have financial decisions with your wife? And I'm thinking to myself, hell goddamn no. I'm not, who sits around and discusses their financial interests with their wife? I don't do that.
Yeah, that shit weird.
I don't make decisions with my wife. Hell, I got a whole prenuptial agreement just so she can't never ask me about my damn money and decisions. You understand what I'm saying?
See, look, these people be having circular talking points. Look,
yeah,
Dennis.
But what I'm saying is you got to understand, these are the arguments these come up with. Now, this is what I want to address. Dennis is Hispanic and a mulatto. Africa ain't paying shit. Black Americans own slaves too. Cut yourself a check. Here's what my whole name is Dennis Demond Sperling. Now, Demond is my ghetto name. You know the money travel up the street. Demond!
I thought that as soon as you said
your grandma said be in the house before the street lights come on. That's my ghetto name. If you knew me when I was a little boy, you'd be calling me Demond. You understand what I'm saying? That's why I call myself D. Demond. What part of my heritage is Hispanic called Cash God? Which one of my parents is Hispanic? Let me know. Tell me. Where you at? Come on up in here and tell me which one of my relatives is Hispanic. That's what country are they from?
I want to see a picture of his woman.
I want to know what part of Mexico that they named me Sperling in. That's what I want to know. What part of Mexico is Mississippi in? Huh?
I think that's Western European Mississippi. So
I'm trying to understand. The reason that they do this is they want to invalidate the argument by saying, oh, he ain't black, so he has no standing to have these conversations. That's what he's trying to say. Mulatto. No, I'm a red nigga. You know what that mean? That mean my daddy was red, my mama was red, my granddaddy was red. We've been red a long time. I'm a red nigga that'll whoop your black ass. That's what kind of red nigga I am. You understand? Me, Muhammad Ali, red niggas. You understand the difference? See, that's where I'm at. I'm not mulatto.
You're still black.
Mulatto would mean that one of my parents was like white or something like that.
Mm-hmm. But you're still black.
And the crazy part is, and I would let y'all see this, but I don't want to put my business. You know what? I might put my business out there in the street. I have less than 10% European in me. The rest of it is African and somewhere off of India or some shit like that where the dark-skinned people are. You understand what I'm saying? So what are you talking about? And what does this have to do with the legal arguments that I brought up? Call cash gutter? What does this have to do with the legal argument? That's why I want to understand. Y'all got me cussing, saying the N-word. I've been trying to get away from this. Bro. Who else got something to say, man? But why don't y'all come on up in here though? You know what I'm saying? Go ahead. Let's hear about it.
They never talk. The problem is, and this is something that a non-black, non-African, one of my homeboys from India said. He said, when black guys, because he owned a bunch of stores, and they come in and talk and shit, he says, why is it with black people they always talk a lot and do so little?
Ooh, hello.
He said, you say you're gonna do something, you do it, you take care of it. Yep. But motherfuckers come in talking about they mad about the prices, and I think get out the store, go down the street, go to Walmart.
Bro, and that's why so many black people, so many black men, that's why we don't get the respect we're supposed to get. You can't sit around and, bro, I'm a doer. You understand? I said I'm gonna do my own TV show, I did it. I said I'm gonna be a lawyer, I did it. I said I'm gonna own my own business, I did it. I'm saying I'm gonna be a great lawyer. I'm a member, I'm being inducted into the Hall of Fame for lawyers on April 6th at my law school. You understand what I'm saying?
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you so much, brother. I'm not waiting around for permission.
No.
See, the main problem with Black Americans is you've been told or brainwashed into believing that you're victims.
Yep.
You see
Yes,
what I'm saying?
sir.
And that you can't do
Yeah.
nothing without the permission of somebody else or they, whoever they is, somebody type they in the chat room. They are keeping you down. You see what I'm saying?
The man.
And so they ain't been keeping you down since 1865. They got laws that said that they can't even do stuff to you like they used. They used to be able to keep you from living where you wanted to live, or going to school where you wanted to go to school, or having a job that you wanted to have. Now you can make your own job. You can educate your own children. They used to make you sit in the back of the bus. Now you can drive the bus if you want to. So as long as you got this fictitious barrier, as long as you got these artificial impediments, you're going to keep being held down. Ain't nothing you can tell me. Let me say this, man. I die for my freedom. I would literally lay down my life for my freedom. I lay down my life to do what I want to do. You can't tell me what I can't do. I'm going to go as far as my intellect and my courage and my money and my finance and my ingenuity will take me. And there's nothing you can do about it. And I dare you to try to stop me. I'm going to figure out a way to get done what I want to get done. And if more you Black men would develop that mentality, then we wouldn't have to worry about nobody else. The person getting in y'all's way is your own 2 feet.
Hey, there's a great book. I don't want to interrupt you, but
I hope y'all hear me.
I hear you.
What's getting in your way is you. It starts with here. It starts right here. One step after another. It's not going to be easy. And even if you get knocked down, oh what? I tried. And I'm going to keep trying. You got to have a non-quitting spirit. But Black men have been broken. You listen to all this stuff on the internet about what you can't do. You're surrounded by losers. You're surrounded by people who tell you what you can and can't do. And y'all begin to believe it, man. I'm just crazy like that. I don't believe you. Yeah. I've had people tell me what I can't do. I'm gonna do it anyway. And 9 times out of 10, I succeeded at it. And you only gonna be successful in this world if you have 2 traits. Either you gotta be courageous and be able to conquer your fear, or you gotta be too crazy to know that you should be afraid. You see, and then you'll go ahead and go forward. But you got, and sometimes it's a little bit of both. But y'all gotta look, I'm not afraid. And I'm not like y'all. I'm just not afraid. I'm not a scary Black dude. I'm just not afraid. I mean, I'm not afraid of death, because according to the people I grew up with, I was supposed to be dead at 26. I'm just not afraid. Life is too short to be afraid and not take the steps forward that you need to take forward. The least I could do is pay $10,000, $15,000 and have some people write these law review articles and publish them. That ain't gonna cost me nothing. Get the best, brightest minds in Black America to draft these law review articles and put them out there, and for the next generation to pick them up. That ain't hard. You see what I'm saying? It's not hard, is it? But anyway, bro, what was you gonna say before I cut you off?
I was gonna say, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this book. It's called Chains and Images of Psychological Slavery by Dr. Akbar. It was published in 1984, and he came and lectured on it twice when I was in college. Changed my whole perspective, and basically talks about that concept of we freed ourselves of physical chains, but for the psychological slavery release, we have to work towards relieving ourselves of it. Yeah. Being afraid of walking down the street, like he said, talked about how our parents and grandparents used to. And I saw my mom doing this. She was born in 1930. She would walk down the street, white person come, she'd move out the way as they started coming. I was like, what are you doing? I grab her by the hand and said, no, you keep your ass right here.
Yeah. I mean, but see, the thing is, you got that passed down trauma.
Yes.
And you know,
epigenetics.
And our people, what that's part of it, but it's the culture that's been passed down. It's our people that tell us that what we can and can't do. It's good having Africans come to the United States because they don't necessarily have that passed down trauma. And we see them out there doing it. And we were like, damn, it's because they don't have those impediments. You know what it's like when I was young, I wouldn't go to Beverly Hills. Like I knew coming from South Central, going to Beverly Hills, the police might pull me over, hem me up, so I would never go. Now I'm in New York, I'm hanging out on Fifth Avenue, I'm down in Miami, I'm hanging out in all them fancy places down there. But when it come to LA, I'm always hesitant when I drive past that damn Santa Monica freeway because, like, I'm over here in Beverly. I'm headed toward Beverly Hills.
Yep.
It's just psychological at this point because I grew up in a culture that said, "Don't go over there. You don't belong here." But these Africans coming from these other countries, they don't know that. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But everybody got them psychological hangups. But that's what being an adult is about. You got to grow up. You got to get over it. You see what I mean? You belong wherever you are. This world belongs to whoever is strong enough to take it and hold on to it. And you got to truly believe that. The world, nobody owns the world. Everybody owns the world. Both of those two things are true. So what does that mean? That means you have a right to whatever you can take and hold on to. Because guess what? You ain't going to be able to hold on to it forever because you ain't going to live forever. When you die, somebody else is going to pick up where you left off. You understand what I'm saying? But anyway, look, fam, it's been interesting. It's been fun. The people that should have came in here didn't come in here. they running away. Chaos Rain, I'm sure they'll have something to say over there. Tell them that they are intellectually dishonest.
Mm-hmm.
They are unprepared for this conversation, and they are largely unread and unknowing, and they haven't prepared for this conversation. And so what they should do, instead of being naysayers, and quote me, instead of being naysayers, just sit back and watch me work. That's all they need to do. I didn't ask for their input. I'm not asking for their money. All I'm doing is letting the public know that this is what I'm doing. And that's not out of necessity. It's out of courtesy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if they're not going to do anything about it, then they have nothing to say. Reparations is a debt that's owed to Black Americans for the crimes that were committed to us, both crimes against humanity and the actual violations of law. And if we can find a specific law that was violated in a specific group of victims that were that suffered or aggrieved as a result of that law, surely that's a great start. And here we are with this book that I popped up that is available for everybody's reading. You can get it on Amazon.
Uncle D, I'm at the inbox you.
You know what I'm saying? You can get it on Amazon for like $5. Read it yourself. And if any lawyer can't figure out, damn, that sounds like, we can maybe be able to do something about that.
Uncle D,
you shouldn't even be talking on the conversation. You should speak on the conversation. Nevertheless, we got work to do. Hold on, brother. Nevertheless, we got work to do. We'll push this thing forward. We'll see how far it goes. And maybe somebody else will pick it up afterwards. But anybody who's interested in this conversation, you can email me at sperlingdennis@gmail.com. I'll try to put together a newsletter and kind of keep people posted in the real world. But for the most part, I'll be talking about it. Other than that, that's about all I got to say. Chaos Rain, what were you trying to add?
No,
very quick. Yeah, go on.
I'll just keep it short. I just need the name of the books. I'll hit you up on the inbox for those.
No. Let me give you the name of the books.
All right.
It's right here. It's called Barracoon.
Okay.
It is the story. It's the story of the last black cargo by Zora Neale Hurston.
Okay.
You can get it on. You can get it right there on Amazon. Okay. It's only 100 pages. This one's only 18 pages.
All right.
There's enough right there for a cause of action too. You can go to Wikipedia and look up this story, the Clotilda. It's right there. You understand what I'm saying? It's not difficult. If look, it's all available to you. It's been there. You understand? DJ Sigwan, you came in late. What you got to say?
Hey, peace to the room, family. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Let me turn the volume down on this other thing. So I just want to acknowledge you, appreciate you, Dennis, and appreciate your squad right here for getting this information out. I have been working on reparations for over a decade, and you are right. A lot of this babble and talk, what's going on. These Moors, they come up here. You got the Pan-Africans, they coming into our spaces surrounding reparations and just completely being agents of chaos. So this is a problem right here. We should have gotten our reparations when Obama became president. This is why Mitch McConnell was quick to say, well, you got your reparations, Obama, woot the woot and all the other stuff. But I know you're about to close out. I don't want to waste no time. Larisha Speaks, or Larisha Bonds. She is currently suing the state of New Jersey right now. She's a Black American woman from Seth Boynton Project, Brick City in the building, and you need her on your team, brother. I'm telling you. She's really like that.
What do I need? Why do I need her on the team? Tell me what she's doing.
She's currently suing the state of New Jersey So when you see something, you say something, right? So she is a Black American sister who was discriminated against from the New Jersey Probation Division. Look her up. Larisha Speaks. LYRESHIA.
So is she suing for reparations or is she suing for some sort of discrimination?
Well, discrimination, but she is a reparationist as well, though. You know what I mean? So basically, what I do.
What are her grounds for reparations?
Well, you'll have to speak to her about that personally.
Well, see, here's the thing, brother. I'm gonna be. Look, I don't need anybody's help.
Right, I understand that. You know what I mean?
Let me reemphasize that. Anybody's help that I need, I will pay them to do what I ask them to do. I'm not asking for anybody's help. This is not done by committee. I just don't need anybody's help. I got my own money.
Right.
You know
well,
I'm good. So
right, no, that's understood. Sir. That's understood 100%.
I'll meet her at the finish line. You see what I'm saying? We can always. It's plenty of ways to the top of the mountain, and at the top of the mountain is reparations for foundational Black Americans. I'll meet her there. But see, the problem that we have is we got too much decision by committee. Somebody there just needs to come up with a plan and go ahead and execute. You see what I mean?
Right. Well, that's what she's actually was able to do. So she wrote a book called Allegedly. Get the book Allegedly, and we gotta get a moment. Say that again.
What is the book about?
Basically about her discrimination.
Okay, but it's not about reparations.
Well, reparations, when you so again, when we talk reparations, right? What does reparations look like to you?
Reparations is payments for African American people who are descended from slavery that occurred in this country who can trace their lineage back to Africa.
Correct. So with that being said, reparations is a multitude of different types of cash payments too. So we talk about this on our platform.
I know cash is cash.
Well,
okay, Black American part of it, though. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you.
No, I'm just saying. It's not to go back and forth. I'm just saying cash is one part of it. So what we talked about here is, hey, like, let's just go back a couple of years with the stop and frisk. Hey, you might have been coming from school, work, minding your business. You got pulled over, got dope put on you. I need to check separately for that too as well. See that? So there's a multitude of things.
That sounds like restitution for a criminal act perpetrated on you by a police officer. That's not the reparations. That's something else. That's restitution for a criminal act. I'm talking about, when I talk about reparations, I'm talking about one thing. And in this particular conversation, I've discussed the people of the Clotilda who came over in 1860, who are still present in a small town called Africatown, north of Mobile, Alabama. And the reason that they were brought over here is because a white man named Meyer made a bet with another white man in New Orleans that he could go to Africa while slavery was outlawed and bring them over here. Thereafter, he brought 110 He bought 110 Africans from the king Glele, who was at the time the king of Dahomey, and brought them over here. Those are the people that I'm using that as a test case. You see, that is a very narrow, easy to understand set of facts that any judge or jury could understand. A legislator, United States legislator, we want to give these people permission to sue that country for their criminal activities, which dates back to 1860. And that'll be a precedent that we set. Clean, to the point. See, once you start labeling more than one thing as reparations, just like everything is racism, now racism means nothing. Once everything becomes grounds for reparations, reparations becomes grounds for nothing. So I'm gonna keep it real narrow. You understand what I'm saying? This is where I'm going with it. Whatever everybody else want to do, that's on them. But this is what I'm gonna do. You see what I'm saying, brother?
Right, for sure. And that's why I asked, what does reparations look like to you? Because everybody got their own point of what it looks like. But there's nothing collective. So I guess I'll land on this point. We are trying to build a collective of different, obviously, mindsets, talking points, scholars, Black American folks, funded socially, funditsocially.com. We are Black owned and operated, Black American owned and operated.
I'm not interested in anybody's money. I don't want anybody else's money. If you want to
No,
give me
it's
some money,
not about money, brother. That's just the name of the site, brother. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Not to confuse you. Funditsocially.com, because we must understand that we have to fund our own endeavors too. Reparations
I
is the
don't
long
need
game.
anybody to fund my endeavor.
What about things like black business?
Slow down, brother. Slow down.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna cut you off. I don't want anybody's money. I'm not doing this for money. I don't want you to listen to me.
Sorry about that, though, but
I don't.
okay, brother.
See here. I'm not asking you to help me build a school. I'm not asking you to help me.
I'm not saying that's what you're saying.
I'm not asking y'all to help me put another film out. I ain't asking y'all to help me. What is it called? What is that called? Fund. I'm not asking for nothing. I'm gonna do this on my own. You see, put my own money where my mouth is.
Right.
You see, that's the difference between what I'm doing and what everybody else is doing. Now, when I'm finished, maybe somebody else can do something else. You can pick up what I did, or you can start from not you personally, but they can pick up from where I did, or they can start what they want to do. But see, part of the reason why there's been very little progress in the reparations movement, you yourself been working on it 10 years. I've been working on it about a year and a half, and I've already come up with this plan. Since the first time I did that first broadcast about reparations, which I did a repeat broadcast on a couple of weeks ago, which caused all this stir, that's how long I've been working on it. And I'm already funding and have created a legal framework which will be put in print for other lawyers and legal minds around the world to look, America could look at and scrutinize. That's where I'm at.
Right, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? I don't need any help. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just say this last thing. There are many dentists out here with their own talking points. So you got Dr. Sandy Darity, you got Sean D. Rochester, who wrote the book The Black Tax. Now, those two scholarly brothers, The Black Tax is basically basing his talking points is everything from 1619 to right now. But Dr. Sandy William Darity, his talking points is only from the Reconstruction era to right now. So it's like, you know, who we rolling with. So when I say funded socially, FUNDIT socially.com, funded socially, we must pull our resources together mentally, not just the economics. So you might have an idea or whatever it is you're doing.
Let me tell you again, I'm not putting my financial resources nor my mental resources towards anything else.
Okay.
I'm gonna do it. I'll let you guys know. No, hold on, brother. I'm gonna do this project that I'm doing right now, and I'm gonna have the legal framework based on my thoughts related to the Clotilda case, and we're gonna put that in legal treatises and documents for other people to review. That's it.
For sure.
Okay.
Uncle D.
All right. God bless y'all. Go ahead. What were you gonna say, Calderon?
Yeah. Right before I go, so you mentioned one country is a Benin. Tell me, is there any other African country that you're gonna investigate for the reparation? Because there are a lot, you know.
I'm sure once I put that blood in the water, and people realize, oh, you mean we could make $100 million off of it? There'll be plenty of people doing investigations. See, you gotta let them know there's an avenue to get money, and then the work will get done itself. You understand what I'm saying?
Because
once people realize that you could sue a corporation for hundreds of millions of dollars for asbestos, all kinds of lawyers start coming up with different asbestos clients and asbestos defendants to sue. Once they realize, oh my God, we laid the legal framework. This lawyer laid the legal framework to sue Togo Benin. That's just a little tiny country down there. Can we sue Nigeria with all that oil money?
Oh, sue Nigeria, yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you got to get a toehold. You got to lay the legal. It starts with a little small legal precedent. And oftentimes that legal precedent starts with the idea that it can be done. That's where I'm at. You understand what I'm saying? I don't need to eat the whole elephant. All I need is a little bite. Okay. And from that little bite, everybody else is going to say, well, I can take a little bite too. And then by the time we finish, the elephant has disappeared. And black folks have been, and foundational black Americans have been compensated for their reparations. That's where I'm at, man. You see what I mean?
Okay. Yeah,
all right. Praise God. Right. Hallelujah. Let us all bow our heads.
Take care, guys.
Y'all be cool. Anyway, thanks to everybody. I appreciate y'all. Thank you, Dale Jennings. Thank you, Calderon. Thank you, Chaos Rain.
Thank you, Uncle
Bro
D,
Hardy.
for
I
doing this.
appreciate y'all. This has been a spirited conversation. All you people in the chat room, the guy, yeah, I hope I answered all the questions. You know, I mean, African, you don't have money. You don't have any money. I don't care. I'm taking it anyway. We'll take your all money and sell it to England to get your money. I don't care what you say. You cry and whine all you want to. Y'all ain't gonna come up without us coming over here getting all our good education and running back to Nigeria. You gonna pay. You gonna pay with your old baby. As I said earlier, Killmonger was right. Africa has an obligation to help its African children. The ones that you sold and got away, the one that you benefited from by selling us, you kept your economy going for 500 years, selling us off to those Europeans. You owe us, and you're going to pay us. And we're not asking. We're taking. Somebody type, we're not praying, we taking. We're not asking, we're taking. We're not asking you for permission. We're going to do our very best to lay the foundation as to why the legal framework should be changed. We'll lay a foundation as to how it can be changed. There's already the template out there, and somebody's going to pick this up, baby.
Yep.
But other than that, I know y'all mad.
Shout
I know
out
y'all
to the
mad.
Perfect King. You
But
know,
I
we
don't
can-
even. God bless y'all. This is Uncle D. I'm out, baby.
Dennis Burley Podcast. Hit the like button, subscribe.